Okay, I'll open the meeting at 9:10 a.m. Thank you for your attendance. I'd like to move a leave of absence for Councillor Ladbrook. And we have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes. I'll go last with the thing. Yes.
Sorry, that was
Yep, I think I heard 3 councillors, so that means it is 8-0.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on. If there's nothing else, we'll go to page 28. Minutes 4. Oh, confirmation of the minutes. Confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 8th of February 2023. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 8th of February 2023 be confirmed.
We have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
great.
Okay, 8-0.
Right,
Item 8.1, rates freeze for 23-24. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming briefing, modelling a rates freeze for all categories for the 23-24 budget based on the Mayor's parameters of a positive operating surplus, a sustainable long-term planning horizon of 10 years. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Yeah, I'll repeat that again. So what have we got? That a report be prepared for an upcoming briefing modelling a rates freeze for all categories for the 23-24 budget based on the Mayor's parameters of a positive operating surplus and a sustainable long-term planning horizon of 10 years. So this would be done, obviously, with my feedback and then come back to a briefing. Okay, I'll speak to the motion. I believe that there has been strong emphasis that this council, a lot of people in the room were in favour of a rates freeze. I believe this will speed up the ability to be able for council to consider it. It's not any decisions being made, it's just the work being done to be able to deliver that. And I think this would be a really good use of our time. It won't change modelling that can be done on different categories. All of those things will still happen. This is about the high level rates freeze that can be delivered based on a situation of having councillors to see that in front of them. Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Edwards. Councillor, sorry, we've got the song signs.
oh yeah, you have.
Councillor Taylor. Apologies, Councillor Taylor.
That's all right.
Reading name.
I was sitting in the wrong spot, obviously. I'm going to vote against this motion because I just don't even know how we can entertain the idea of having another rates freeze, let alone see what it looks like. So I'll be voting against this motion.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Guthrie.
Yeah, I'll be voting for it because to me this is about seeking a report to be prepared. This is not committing us to anything. This is simply starting to move towards thinking about and getting data back to make a fair assessment for the forthcoming budget.
Does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
I won't be supporting this motion because I actually don't understand why it is even coming to the table like it is today. We've been doing budgets for the last 3 years and this has not been the approach we've used. We've actually got all our facts and our figures and we've got our land valuations and we've got our expenses, and then we work out, then we have the opportunity to meet with Mead Perry and we go through a few different scenarios to fully understand what the bottom line means once we put our expenses in. I just cannot understand why we're all of a sudden having to put in a councillor report by the mayor to say that we're just going to go and look at a rate freeze. Does that mean that every councillor gets to go and do that? We all get to put in a report to say, well, no, hang on, I want a report brought back with this. Like, the process we've gone through for the last few years is the fact that we all do that. We just don't do it by resolution of every single councillor having that option coming into a council meeting. I don't understand why we're doing this, and I don't see the benefit. And whilst, yes, we're getting the information back, this does cost council. It does cost council and council staff timing to go and to actually develop this report and to bring back that information. So I don't know why we wouldn't just be including this as a part of the process like we did last year. And I will not be supporting this because from where I sit, I actually don't think that the Maranoa can afford another rate freeze. And so I will not be supporting this resolution. I actually think it is not a good use of council's time and money and council and office staff. I actually think it's a waste, and I won't be supporting it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Burkett.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be supporting it just similar to Councillor Guthrie, just because it's not a decision making, it's just getting some information that'll help us make up our mind when that process does eventuate. We haven't been doing the same process for the last 3 years. Mead Perry was the first time we used them was last year, and we all had not all, but everyone had the opportunity to put in their scenario or whatever last year, and that was the first time we did that. So we are progressing in a different way each year, and I think any more information that we can get will help us make the decision. And the Mayor hands down the budget, so I don't have a problem with you asking this question. The decision will be made when we do get all the facts, but that's not for a couple of weeks yet, so happy to move forward with this.
Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I won't be voting for this. I believe we should be resolving something today, but not a rates freeze. We cannot afford to have a rates freeze, and we need to make a decision before we start dealing with Mead Perry. And this resolution today is still going to leave everything up in the air. And we, like last year, we'll have half a dozen people, different scenarios come up, because while ever the capping's on zero, we can put the rates up, we can put the rates down, we can do whatever you like. And the unimproved value might go up sky high, but we'll still only get the same total dollars we got last year. And that's totally inappropriate, I believe.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
I will. Yeah, I just think we're jumping the gun a bit here on even really, it's basically a resolution and it's fairly straightforward. It's not really doing all that much. It's just proposing a rates freeze for all categories. That a report be prepared, et cetera. So, it's all there for people to see. It's transparent. Before we can do anything, we've obviously got to get all our facts together, and business as usual. We'll look at all the different situations. I, for one, love. This is a learning exercise, and I just don't think we can discount anything that follows this. So, the fact that it's mentioning modelling, I think is a great idea. There's so many models, there's so many things you can do, and I'll be supporting it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
So I'll speak against it.
Please go ahead.
I'm speaking against this because this is just a resolution that's pushing forward Unity Maranoa's political position. I need to correct the record. The budget is not owned by the Mayor. The Mayor doesn't put forward a budget. The legislation changed to ensure that all councillors are involved in the budget, and it's in fact a budget of all 9 councillors. But I won't be supporting this because this is the cart before the horse. The land valuation data is not presented to council. The priorities from a councillor's perspective has not been presented to council. The priorities going into the next budget from a staffing perspective from the executive and their teams has not been presented to council. We don't have any lens over a draft operating budget, and we need to understand those priorities first before we start to model any rating scenario. And so whilst I have grave concerns that we are setting our region up for undue pressure in the years ahead with another rate freeze, I can't in all good conscience say that I've done my due diligence on that, because I haven't seen any of the priorities, any of the draft operating budget scenarios that we have historically got from our team of officers leading into the budget. I just think this is a bullish way of pushing a particular agenda, and I won't be supporting it.
I will sum up on the matter, on the motion. I believe that the rates freeze is widely supported by the community. I do believe council is in a very financially strong position. I believe that councillors have always in the room voted against the rates freeze. I don't think that would change whatever happened. I do believe that this is actually about bringing the facts of how it can be done, and each councillor can vote how they wish to. I do take offence at councillors bringing up Unity Maranoa as in the situation that each councillor in this chamber votes as they want. There was a platform put up at the election which was very clear, and I believe is extremely transparent and refreshing, that councillors are willing to put up what they're going to do before they get into office. And I think that the other thing that was brought up is getting rid of capping. I think getting rid of capping would be the biggest risk to ratepayers in the region that the region would ever see. And I do not agree with getting rid of capping. This is not part of that motion, but obviously that debate is that if this was supported in the future, and there's a lot of water going under the bridge before it would be, but if this was, obviously capping is the way. But if someone wants to talk about capping, I believe that all of the ratepayers in the Maranoa need to understand what that means, and I believe that it would be very destructive for business operating efficiently, and I've always believed that council should look internally and do what it can before it asks for increases. And with the amount of pressure on inflation, it is not the time for council to be creating more pressure on inflation in a Maranoa by not looking at creative ways to handle some of our cost increases. This year we have seen significant efficiency gains in different projects, and if we start rolling that across the board, that is the way you can have a rates freeze. And I actually have come to council bringing a business focus, that we work out what money we have, and then based on our standard basic parameters, can we afford something before we start talking about projects. We've already had one briefing on projects and a lot of data that's given to us. So I believe that we should look internally first. And Maranoa Regional Council in this term's decisions have been pro-business, pro-development, and we have seen that we let businesses in the Maranoa and residents thrive by not burdening them with large increases as different views may want. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against?
Yes.
Against.
4, and I'll use the division to support the motion. So it will be
Casting vote.
casting vote. So it will be 5-4. Can I call for a division?
Yes.
Okay, item 11.1, monthly financial report as at the 31st of January 2023.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I can't see the room, so I'm assuming that Director Eric might be there.
Yes,
Yep,
through the chair,
correct.
councillor Hancock, we
Yep,
both have
and Ramon.
Ramon and Director Eric here.
Okay. My first question is, I was a little bit confused on page 30. There was a note at the top saying that the date of this report is prior to the adopted Q2 budget, and therefore the current budget is the Q1 amended budget, and the adopted Q2 budget figures will be reported in the next month, which is February's 23 monthly financial report to council.
Yep.
But in the minutes just gone on page 7, we adopted the Q2 budget last meeting.
Yeah, sorry. So just to clarify, this is a report as at the end of January. Therefore, we did not include the Q2 update because that was done after that. That's all I'm saying.
But, so is this different to the one? Did we have a financial report in June meeting?
At the in-June meeting, you had a
Yes.
Q2 review at that particular point in time.
But not this financial document.
No, so this is reporting on actuals.
Yeah.
The Q2 review is basically a forecast for the rest of the financial year.
Okay.
And next month, what we will do is you'll see that we have our current budget, which is 22-23, that particular column. That will be
Yep.
updated to reflect our Q2 review.
Yep. Good.
Does that help you?
Yep. And
Okay.
yep. And so my next question is, and I base this on knowing, I know that the rates have just gone out. What I can't understand is that we are negative $12.9 million in the red, and that's including an extra $1.5 million of interest paid that was never budgeted for. So it's actually would be less than that if we hadn't had the high interest. But in the explanation and the justification for it, it doesn't talk about the rates. It talks about the fags. And so now I'm a little bit confused on where we're up to with our fags grant, because when we got our fags grant, we get it prior and we seem to spend it before the year to help our last year's budget. And now do we not have enough fags money to do what we've got to do this year? Like, I'm a bit confused about the justification of why we're $12.9 million in the red.
So thank you very much for the question. In relation to fags, the timing of fags is we get paid on a quarterly basis. So at the end of September, end of December, end of March, and end of June. In previous years, the state government has decided to actually prepay the following year so for this year, they may decide to prepay the following year into the current financial year.
That's right. And so therefore we spend that to help us with that financial year's budget, but then we're left short with this financial year's budget. Is that right?
We are under the assumption at this particular point in time that they will continue with their same trend as has been for the last 5 years, I believe.
And look,
Righto.
through the chair, councillor, just in relation to your question, the first question around rates, is the difference is actually supplementary levies that are currently being levied. So so in essence, whilst we've levied all the normal rates, we've still got supplementary rates that are currently being levied now, and they will be all of those rates that have tenure changes for whatever reasons. There is a considerable number.
There is quite a few, and a lot of them relate to some of the changes of the amalgamations of some of the petroleum leases, and we're just trying to understand what that position is at this particular point in time, because it does look to be more in our favour rather than in the petroleum sector's favour, which is quite interesting. So we're just trying to understand that position before we talk about it any further.
Okay,
Right,
any other
righty.
questions?
Thank you.
Can I have a question, please?
Yes.
Yeah, and then councillor Taylor.
Director Eric, just in relation to the timing, just operating revenue. So, what impact does the advance payments have for the event, the event 1.3 flood damage? It's been received by council, but as per accounting standards, revenue is not recognised until works have been completed. So would that come into the statement of income at some later date?
Yeah, so thank you very much for that question. I just need to clarify the comments around there is and actually I will distribute some information around this that might be of interest to council. I can only talk about it from a technical perspective at this particular point in time. There are certain standards that determine when the revenue is to be recognised. There are certain criteria around performance of those particular grants and funding that will determine when that particular grant funding will be recognised. Some of it's attached to the performance of those grants and some of it is not. So, for example, FAGs, that is just a general purpose type of arrangement that has no connection to performance. Therefore, you recognise it when you receive the monies. However, there are certain performance arrangements such as QRA, I think TIDS is as well off the top of my head, where we have to go through those particular contracts and we recognise that revenue upon the performance of those contracts, and that's why we have such things as contract liabilities and contract assets sitting in our balance sheet that you can see as part of our financial statements at the end of the year. So we try to, although we've received the cash, councillor, we recognise it dependent on that particular contract upon the timing and the performance of that arrangement. Does that answer your?
Yeah. So whilst these figures are saying what they're saying, it's not necessarily the true position until it's recognised in the accounts.
Except for FAGs.
Except for FAGs, but that also includes LRCI as well.
Yes.
By the looks of them. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
There'll be a wash up at the end of the year and there'll be a calculation with regards to what some of the outstanding contracts are.
Yeah, and in regard to interest, that would just be a normal
Recognised when received.
That's a normal revenue stream for the council. I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, even though it's increased, that's just because interest rates have increased. So that's just part and parcel of the management of the council. You know, you can take that into consideration when you're working out your profit. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And
Okay.
look, our obligation to council is to try and maximise the returns on that particular interest as best we can. Hence, there was a letter that was put to council that LGAQ were going to advocate for perhaps a syndicate, I suppose, for a lack of a better word, where they could pool all their monies together to try and look at increasing the returns without increasing risk for councils to get a better return. But what I will say is it is pleasing to see that we're earning 4% on $90 million rather than 1% on $90 million.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
And that type of stuff is very important for council. So, and that relates to not only our investment policy but also our financial management strategy around trying to marry up our cash at bank and the returns on that to our asset management plans down the track, where our assets are increasing costs by 4 to 8% across the board.
Thank you.
Okay, councillor Taylor.
I'm just on page 31 and it's only a typo, I'm pretty sure. The operating expenses at the top says 59% and down the bottom says 57, so I'm presuming that should be 59.
Oh.
My other question
Apologies.
is, The other question is the long distance coach stock program on page 34. We obviously get funding for that. Is that our responsibility to maintain as well?
Sorry, councillor, which one are you referring to?
The long distance coach stock program on
Uh,
page 34.
Near the top.
Councillor Taylor, maybe Deputy Director would have
Sorry.
more detail on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's a good question, Councillor Taylor, and it's quite a unique arrangement. But council's responsible for providing public transport infrastructure and maintaining public transport infrastructure. Yet the state government is responsible for providing the public transport service. So it's a bit of a collaboration. We have to provide the infrastructure as a council, and they provide the ongoing service there.
And
So
then we maintain it?
correct, yeah. Yep.
Thank you. My other question then is on page 37, rates outstanding. There's an extra
Yes.
$3 million in that
Yes.
from this
compared-
time last year.
Yes. Look, I did get a report on. I did get a report on that beginning of at the end of January. Probably about that relates to itself, and that's a significant amount of money. We have been working with them as closely as we possibly can. They have gone through high staff turnover, and they are financially not necessarily in a great spot as well too. So it's something that council needs to be aware of when we're doing our rates, and there might need to be some kind of strategy we formulate around how we actually recover that particular monies from. Of course, we're covered legislatively, because at the end of the day, we have the right to go down the sale of land track if required. However, this is a difficult one because it's basically a gas site that has got infrastructure on it, and who would you actually sell it to? So I think that's probably a bit bigger picture than having this discussion here at this particular point in time.
Okay, so yeah.
I think it's, off the top of my head, I think it's $2.8 million. I can get you that list if you want me to.
Okay, I just wondered why it was so.
Yeah,
not doing
it
so well this
it
year.
was concerning, and that's why I asked for that particular list.
Looks concerning.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one more question.
Please go ahead.
On page 32, where we've got the projects, the capital projects, we're only 23%. Are we going to be able to finish our projects or get closer to 100%, do you think? Is that achievable?
Councillor, thank you very much for that question. If I can just commence this discussion, we now have started a monthly meeting where the senior leadership team meet to discuss the progress on project delivery with regards to capital projects, and that brings around not only the visibility, increases the visibility of where we're at with those particular projects at this particular point in time. There is, as part of Q2, we did look at some of those capital items, and we reduced it by the Arcadia project for $5 million. However, we've also included an additional $4 million for some plant equipment. We also now have Q3 to review that again to have better visibility around what we will and what we won't deliver. And I'd just like to hand over to Deputy Director Cameron for some further insight.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Hancock, the programs, obviously this is to the end of January. As Eric said, there's been a big adjustment in there for Arcadia Valley. So there is definitely projects that won't be fully delivered this financial. It's purely because they're in the design stage. They're not going to be fully ready. There's $2.25 million sitting in the program for, say, the Calico Cottage building and that sort of thing. So, yeah, we definitely, I could probably provide a little bit more detail. I think I've got a briefing coming up on the Capital Works program in there. So there will be some carryover, but the thing that's also not showing is that's obviously cash. We have got some commitments there, some major commitments, resale programs currently in progress and that sort of thing. So there's some pretty big ticket items starting to come through there now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nolan, then Burkett.
I'm just going to say through you, Mr Mayor, to Deputy Director Cam, or maybe Director Eric, the way I read it, there's only a 58% target anyway in this financial year. Is that what I'm reading correct? Up the top
Where are we seeing that?
of that column?
Page of-
Oh, 32, sorry, the same one we just spoke. 58, we're 24% of a 58%.
Sorry, that the target will be. Sorry, target will be as at the end of January, which is around about 58%.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Burkett.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Deputy Director, so I think I've answered half my question, but situations like, so the Mitchell Park and admin, until they're signed off completed, that doesn't change that figure. Like, so once the admin, which is not far away, that'll change. It's a live figure. It'll change that end money anyway, won't it? Situation like when they're nearly completed, so there might be a few of them on that list.
Councillor Burkett, there'll be a few. Like projects like that, you do have your progress claims as they don't sort of wait till the end and one big payment. So the progress claims made to date will be definitely reflected in there. It'll be just the final claims and that sort of stuff.
Chips is another one. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the 56% is obviously the target based on time. If you start to pull $5 million out of there for Acadia and other adjustments, it does improve that percentage a significant amount, which you should see in the next month's report there. So.
Okay, any other questions? I've just got a question in regards to Councillor Hancock's comment about that we seem to spend the fags once we get it, or before we get it, or whatever the comment was. I just want to the director, I don't believe that we would ever spend it before we actually get it. We just get it early, as my understanding.
Yeah, we basically call it a prepayment, but we recognise it as revenue upon when we receive it.
So we don't spend it before the financial year that we actually are going to use it in.
No, we probably get it around about, I think we'll get a notification around about the end of May, and we'll probably receive the funds around about probably the third week in June, might be the last week in June. That seems to be my understanding as to what the history is. And all I can say is that's been their state of or their process as to what they've done in prior years.
Yep.
But we always spend it in the year that we.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chair, it is actually untied funding, so other than the roads component. So yes, we spend it in the year that we get it. You're right in the fact that there's a timing.
In the financial year that we get
that it applies to, absolutely.
Not early. Just because we get it early, it just sits in our accounts.
That's right. There's always a timing issue, and that suits the federal government, not necessarily the council. But where it does play out is that if you've had a timing difference, for argument's sake, potentially this year, is that when we get to our financial statements at the end of the year, you're still recognising money when you've received it. So in essence, for last year, quite simply, our pattern is that we receive 50% up front for as the federal government was running to election last year, they actually gave us 75% up front. So this year, all things being equal, they owe us 25%. And when we see the impact of that on our financial statements, we just have less cash. The reality is the application of the money is still over the operational year in which it's applied.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have got some information around that might be of value to council to understand the difference between revenue and income.
Just quickly.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Going on
Councillor Edwards.
from Madam CEO, Untied. Would you mind just elaborating on what's Untied?
Certainly what I mean by that is certainly the financial assistance grant has two components. One for the delivery of the local government, the general purpose side of the local government, and one for a roads component. It's at the council's discretion as to how they spend that money. In essence, council's practice is the financial assistance in relation to general operations is applied to the business model of council in general. In relation to roads, we apply that to our roads, often in maintenance. So it improves our operational ability to deliver for you, and that's what the design of that money is, and that's why it's so important.
And you'll always get a matching in the current year, a matching of revenue and expense, won't you? A match, match one will get the other.
I think that's the debate, is sometimes there's a timing issue in relation to that, and the federal government decide how much they pay us, and they also decide whether they will pay us into the future. So the thing is, their historical practice is to give us at least 50% up front. Why? Just prior to the end of the financial year, it improves Treasury's position. In a year that they want to release money, in a year that they don't, they can actually time that differently. The reality is the money is there for the next financial year to meet the operational obligations of the council in both its general purpose delivery as well as its road making.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more questions,
Well, no, I do in response to that, Mr. Mayor.
please go ahead.
I'd just like to request at some stage we have a further briefing on that, because that's actually not the answer I got when I asked the same question last year. That money did go into, so I'd love that. I'd like to have clarification.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a briefing on it. The reality is that's how the money's applied, and that's how it should be applied. So I'm happy to have a briefing on that. You've got some changes coming in financial assistance as well, so it would be timely over the next 4 weeks that we have a briefing on both some of those aspects of your revenue, which can be unpaid rates, and also to FAGs.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, just one question on page 34, just in relation to the supply and installation of the Rain River Station below the diversion channel.
Yes, the 20.
Where is that?
Through the chair, is that Nyes Lane? No.
Councillor O'Neill, Cameron here. So that was supplying Rain and River Station, was originally flagged for the below the diversion channel near sort of the cities area. When we had both the Bureau of Meteorology and the installer come out, that area is it's not great for monitoring stream flow. It's very wide and that. So at the time, the objective of this project was to be able to install a gauge to be able to use our historic data, obviously with the channel coming in. So that gauge has gone in and at the Nyes Lane there, just at the head of the diversion channel, with the intent being that can now we can now recalibrate that Rain River gauge on the pre-diversion channel flows. So that's where that's been installed.
All right, thank you.
That site in particular is still critical to council. We are proposing to replace the river gauge station with a camera there, because that is the area that will start to see increases if the channel's at capacity. So, but it was just all the advice was that it is not the best place to be monitoring sort of river gauge flows, but definitely a good spot to still monitor the trend of the river as opposed to the volume going through there.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess it's not a big deal, but Deputy Director Cam, that should read above the diversion channel, shouldn't it, not below it?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I suppose the original intent was below, because that was where we thought. But yeah, you're spot on. It probably the project. When we had the project amended with QRA, we probably should have just updated the project line there. So,
Okay, so do we have a mover for the monthly financial reports? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council receive and note the monthly financial report for the period ended the 31st of January 2023.
Yeah, we got a second.
I'll second it.
Oh, sorry, Councillor McMullen was first. And any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
Mayor, can I just ask, I'm not normally online, so I'm observing it, remotely, of course, but can all councillors just lean in to the microphones when they speak? It's a bit hard to hear Councillor Taylor and Councillor McMullen.
Righto.
Certainly we're
Okay,
adjusting
thank you
the
for the
microphones.
feedback.
That any better?
We'll all have one each.
Can you hear me all right?
Coming through loud and clear.
Get a job in IT.
That better, Councillor O'Neill?
You right now, Cameron?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you.
So we've got page 42.
Uh, 12.1 Asphalt Works Opportunity Burrow Street, Surat. Do we have a mover? I'd like to move that Council, 1, approve a budget allocation of 210,000 to complete an asphalt overlay of the parking lanes across Burrow Street, Surat, to the extent described as section 1, 2 and 3 in this report. 2, fund the works cost savings achieved within the current budget 2022-23 capital works program from the following projects: A, widening to curb Roberts Street, Surat; B, widening to curb William Street, Surat; and C, Richardson's Road gravel resheet. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to submit a variation to the LRCI 1 Phase 3 program. 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter into final contractual negotiations and execute a contract with the contractor that has been selected to complete the asphalt works in Surat for the Department of Transport and Main Roads. And I'll add point 5, communicate with all stakeholders involved to brief them of the upcoming works.
Is that the stakeholders or adjoining property owners? or-
Well, yes, I should say, adjoining property owners involved, to brief them of the upcoming works and understand if there is any opportunities required as private works to be completed at the same time
Okay.
whilst the opportunity exists. Deputy Director, is there any problems you see with that? Because we do get asked where someone might want, for instance, a parking spot done or something at the same time, and it's difficult in every community to get those sort of resources in case they want something that we could complete at the same time.
Yeah,
Or could it be done, said any better? So basically letting them know about what's coming up, so they've got plenty of time and to consider.
no changes there, Mr Mayor. Happy with
Right.
that. That's-
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Guthrie, I'll speak to it. I do believe what we've done in the past is sometimes we haven't done it at the same time, and it's been really noticeable. So I know other councils have actually even done sewerage works to make sure that they get in and do that, so they don't ever have to come back and do it over the time. So I appreciate getting this report in, and I do think that we should be proactive to try and give a good result for the people in Surat that's affected.
And just through the chair, just in item number 4, I think you said the word, instead of saying the word asphalt works, you said another word, and I wasn't quite sure.
Righto,
But
so I'll just
confirming
clarify
Number
that.
4 was asphalt.
Yeah, selected to complete the asphalt works in Surat
Yeah,
for the
great, thank you.
Department of Transport and Main Roads. Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I was happy to second it because what really I find really encouraging is the fact that the work's going to be undertaken through cost savings that have been achieved. So to me, I just applaud the fact that we're able to save money in an efficient way and then be able to use it to continue some asphalt or capital works using the savings.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor
Yes.
Yeah,
Burkett?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to follow on for that. We spoke about efficiencies yesterday in briefing, and this is a perfect example we did bring up yesterday, and I think it's a great way to move forward, whether it's challenging the staff or looking for more efficient ways. So I also applaud these gentlemen here and look forward to seeing more of this come to the table.
Okay.
I'd like to, Mr.
Yep.
Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate Deputy Director Cam and his team on the actual cost savings of the initial projects, and then to have the foresight of reinvesting it into another road project within Surat, but also having that double whammy of a cost saving as well, because you can have that by seizing the opportunity of tagging it onto an existing works that's happening there. So I'd just like to congratulate Deputy Director Cam and his team on this initiative and for bringing this report forward. So thank you very much.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I too would like to congratulate Deputy Director and his team coming up for innovations. I also do believe it is another example of operating locally, working really well. In the past, there was just an enormous amount of pressure, I believe, when it was all centralised. Whilst there's still obviously major pressure on officers, there is more areas taking the load. So I do believe it lets people have a little bit more time to think about what they're doing. And there's some more support because we've given more support with the structure. So I certainly believe this is something that, in fact, in the last 12 months, we've seen more efficiency than I've seen considerable time before that, because I do think when just, taking the pressure off and challenging and actually having more decision makers in the field. So thank you to the team led by Deputy Director, and I realise you have many staff underneath that are all part of on the journey, and we'll look forward to leaving a first-class result for Surat in these areas. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0. Thank you. Page 53, 13.1, pipeline in Muckadilla. Councillor
Mr.
McMullen.
Mayor, I'd like to move that Council, 1, acknowledge that this report enacts the actions in relation to Resolution 0M.10.2022-45. 2, receive the report noting A section of water line has been replaced as part of water mains maintenance. B, future upgrades to the water supply line be considered in line with the relevant asset management plan should there be no further unexpected failures.
Okay, we have a second account.
Yeah, I'll second. Just a question. That table on page 54, surely that's not all the repairs every financial year?
But it's not for that particular line, it's for Muckadilla, I believe.
The whole of Muckadilla?
I think that was
That's
mine.
correct, yeah. So we were unable to isolate that
Yeah, I see
individual
the
line out.
specific section. I just thought that was still that, talking about the section from there to the rifle range, not the whole town.
No, so yeah, that is for the whole town.
If I might say that, I think most of it has been poly pipe. There's been other line, but
I'll second it.
We've got a seconder. Just a question to the CEO. Is there anything that, if the mover and the seconder wish to, that we could put in there to give direction from council to have more emphasis if there is failures, just to replace it? So, reports don't need to come to council about these sorts of issues. Is there any general direction or ask for a report as an extra line or anything that we could do?
So through the chair, you can amend this motion in any way should you wish to.
It's up to the mover and the seconder.
And yes, and in essence, what you're asking us is to be proactive in our maintenance, aren't you?
Yeah, and also
reactive.
when there's a cost and they're coming back to do it, that they look at having some mechanism they should be looking at upgrading for a cheaper cost.
my understanding, that's what, we may not see that, but that's the intention of the resolution.
Is that in all
Well,
areas?
ask the director, but if it starts to fail,
Yeah, certainly the recommendation was crafted in a way that if it does start to fail, we move into that. Yep, we recognise it is an old line. 1970 is when it was installed according to our system. So, 53 years? It's probably getting towards end of life. It's an old 80 millimetre poly line. So we've sort of identified the section where it goes from 100 mil PVC mains to old poly, and basically with the work we've done there now, we believe it should continue to operate. But the resolution references if it does fail, we will move straight into a replacement.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking on a council-wide level, because we have the same issues in Roma, we have them in other areas where we seem to spend as much on joiners than we could on just doing it.
I'm probably happy to change a little bit in the sense, Mr Mayor. This is a reply to an S170, I believe I put in. We probably should include the other poly line, just only referring to that one, isn't it?
Yeah, so the opening point in the recommendation was there was a councillor motion brought forward requesting a report for that line, so it does only reference that one, correct?
So just
Dot point 3, how would I word it to include the other poly line that goes from up to the old school?
Centenary.
What is it? Centenary Drive.
I just see Centenary Drive.
Yeah.
there somewhere.
Council, how would I word that?
Yep.
'Cause
So
that's-
through the chair, just picking up on the debate in the chamber, and I recognise that you'll craft something specifically about that additional line. Am I capturing the thoughts as that as part of efficiencies that renewals are done in a timely and effective way rather than as repeated maintenance?
Repetitive maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah, well, basically, if you're saying, like, if you were treating your own money, you'd say, well, we're going to spend more joiners, why don't we just replace it?
That's
But
right.
just some way that we could give a bit of a statement or ask for a report, that's what we want our crews to think about, rather than, oh, we're not allowed to do that because one's maintenance and one's renewal or something.
Yes.
You know, this sort of crazy demarcation.
So in essence, your point B that the director has written is that it refers to the asset management plan, which has both maintenance, a guide on maintenance as well as a guide on renewals. It does actually address that. It's just that, is that clear enough for you? Because it's basically saying use the guide, which is telling you based on the condition of your infrastructure, you should be replacing it at this point and spending at least X amount of dollars on maintenance on an annual basis. It does actually capture that, whether that's clear enough to councillors or not.
Needs to be enforced. Like, obviously, it's been brought to attention now, so hopefully.
Yes.
Mr Mayor, first thing I would think the asset management plan would say it's well overdue for replacement.
That's right.
And secondly, I didn't realise before we have another one that's not this was about
One line.
There's another line. It'll be probably due the same time. So the poly line that feeds the residents on end of Centenary Drive.
So in number 3, are you asking us to do something
Yeah,
which
just add that.
is renew or or inspect or
Consider.
Because
Consider I know for a fact it's been repaired a few times too. So consider the
renewal? Because that's about replacement.
Consider the renewal of the poly line heading to
Centenary Drive
to
it is.
Well, it's not renewal, it's upgrading. That's one sentence there, it's really
well, that's the same thing. Upgrade, isn't it?
upgrade.
Yeah.
It's not renewing.
So through the chair, if upgrade might be a bigger line, and
Well, we can put upgrade, and it's the upgrade
great, that gives us a clear.
feeds the residents on the
Centenary.
Centenary Drive.
So, Councillor McMullen, but what about a line? And if you're not, I'm happy to bring a report in future, but I'm actually saying, how can we make a statement that when there's excessive maintenance costs being spent on individual pieces or something, that renewals are being, to be considered?
Yeah.
Because,
Could you put that in point B?
Mr Mayor, it's in there. It says in line with the asset management plan.
He's just
the
not
whole
talking
of the
about
Maranoa.
Muckadilla.
I'm talking about the whole of the Maranoa.
Oh, well, that's
just
probably another
talking about-
resolution. Yeah.
He's not talking about Muckadilla.
Yeah, or otherwise you after asset management plan as per rest assured. I don't know, but it might cloud it.
Yeah, he's taking away from
Through the
this.
chair, you could craft it by taking out B in two and actually making it another prong. Is that from a region-wide perspective, that future upgrades to the water supply line being considered in line with all relevant asset management plans. Should there be?
But if you want to leave it like this, I'll bring a report back
Yeah,
about it,
okay.
because
It might be
I'm
simpler.
interested in the whole region.
Might be
Yeah.
To me, that's probably the better, because this is in relation to resolution,
Report. Yeah.
then-
your report,
which,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, happy with that.
Consider the renewal
Sorry,
upgrade of
Nikita,
the
we-
poly line
no,
feeding
that's a
residents
different-
to
we've already got that.
Centenary Drive.
This one
Um,
here. goes to
Muckadilla.
rifle range. We-
Yep. Okay, is
That's
the
good.
mover and the second
Yeah.
happy with the motion as it's,
Yep.
yeah, and has everyone else seen it? We know what we're, voting on? Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like to thank all the staff involved in this. I wouldn't know how many times I've been to Muckadilla Progress Association meetings and the water's been leaking and another joiner put in, another joiner put in. So this time they did replace the section, like which I call the T section, that comes off the main line and feeds the hall, the toilet and a couple of other things there. So that's a good start, because it's not leaking. It hasn't leaked since. So, and yeah, look forward to the whole lot being replaced.
Okay, does someone else wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'll speak to the
Councillor
motion. This is just another example of what we spoke about yesterday with efficiencies and finding a better way forward. And I think this is common sense. We spoke about yesterday about places got 10 joiners, and when they were $30, $40 each, plus each time you dig it up, it would have been cheaper to replace the section. So I too have seen this and had calls and since I've been on council. So I think it's great to move forward with this.
Yeah, does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak to it. I do believe this is the start of it, but I'll be bringing a report back to council about considering this on a council-wide area, because residents are frustrated with this. They can see the waste of money. So I believe this is a step in the right direction, but we also need to do it where we have a trigger where we have constant maintenance of a line. If we actually add up the real cost, we could have actually put in a longer piece of pipe to the next area in the same time as we've done the joiners, probably at less cost with lack of joiners. So I think this should be just a natural way we would work. So I'm very glad that this motion is being put up by obviously a report originally from the Deputy Mayor. But I believe we should be doing this all over the region, because it is extremely frustrating and wasting resources and money, and we need to jump on top of it and give our staff more decision-making powers. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor. I think
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
thanks, Lee.
Wait till another report.
Yeah, I might get the wording right.
Yeah, sure. I'm just mucking around with that.
Morning, Paul.
Morning.
Hey, Paul.
2, Roma Show Prime Sales 2023. Do we have a mover?
Mr Mayor, I would move, but I've got a question first, and I think do we think we'll ever have a Thursday sale again through you to the manager, sorry?
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor. I'm struggling to see how they'll get them to come back, to be quite honest. Like, well, we are about 4 years in now with it being incorporated. I think they're just being cautious around, well, when or if we get back to like a 10,000 head store sale and a 2,500, 3,000 prime sale, what that might look like on a one-day sale. But I'm struggling to see how they'll get it to come back, because if you go to the buyers now and say, well, look, we're now starting prime sales from the 1st of July, I really don't think you'll get the attendance like we did previously.
So, through you, Mr Mayor, obviously, the agents are still suggesting we hang on to the date?
Yes, correct.
Okay, do we have a mover? I'll move that due to the recommendation from the Roma Livestock Agents Association, RLAA, Council 1 nominate Tuesday as a regular sale day for prime cattle until the end of June 2023. This will give certainty to producers that prime sale cattle are auctioned weekly at Roma. 2, undertake a review in May 2023 in consultation with the RLAA, bringing a report back to Council. Do we have a seconder?
Mayor, could I just suggest an amendment?
Yeah,
We're very close to the June 20, can we make it 2024? Otherwise we'd be back here.
Or December? Like, why is it just till the end of June?
well,
Financial years, but
Yeah, I know it's a financial
Yeah,
year,
but-
but I mean,
yeah, but the only thing is, we always take the recommendation of the agent, so
But-
if you're worried about stretching it out or getting rid of the date, I think we should have some consultation first.
Mr Mayor, if they want to do it next week, they've got to come back to us to do it. So if they're going to change it, bring it back in, they'll have to come back to us. They can't just, whatever we're putting this in, at this point in time, they can't have one without coming back to council until the end, till July.
Yeah, so what is,
Make it July 24, end of June 24. If they're going to change, if they want to bring them back in, they've only got to ring Paul up and say, put them.
but I think we'd be going against their recommendation if we did that.
I know, but it just means more work for them, for the manager and for everyone else.
But I think there's a reason why they're doing this, and I think we should consult with them before we go against the recommend. But anyway,
do
let's.
we know the reason why they say June?
I think there is some things that they would explain to you why that they're doing this.
Mr Mayor, we introduced it not introduced, on a 12 monthly basis originally, last term, when they said, we said we'd do it 12 monthly. Here we review it 12 monthly.
Yeah, but I think we should consult with them first before we go against their recommendation.
We lay it on the table.
Oh, I mean, it's not a big deal, but
Well,
just
it's
means.
not, but it just means that we're
if
going
it
to turn
goes
around and
ahead,
we'll be back again.
yeah.
Anyway,
way, we're going to be back.
well, that's true.
Only if we went for a longer period, we'd only come back if they want to bring it back
They
in.
want to change it.
Maybe,
Anyway.
Mr Mayor, I would agree. Maybe we lay it on the table and ask Manager Paul if he could just even make contact with them and do it later today, because it's going to be a quick question to ask. Was there a reason why they wanted that date? Would they be amenable to changing it?
Why was it 12 monthly? And I think
Yeah.
they'll come back and say that was our decision originally. But yeah, whatever.
Righto. Well, I'm happy to lay it on the table to get more information from the agents in regards to did they want a longer period of time for 12 months, or they wanted the 6 months and the reasoning behind that.
I agree with that, Mr Mayor, but for the director, would we make it today or to another meeting? Because he won't be able to ring.
Yeah, and
No,
I agree. I think it
later.
should be till
Future meeting.
future meeting.
Yep.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Is that enough time? or-
He'd have to try and catch up with all the agents today.
Yeah, and I think all the agents need to
Well,
be.
he'd have to go to the,
Well, wouldn't the president
Have a
might
meeting.
be able to give him clarification?
well,
Well, but sometimes there's quite a few views there, so is it okay if we go to the next meeting? Righto.
So we're asking whether they want it from
Or if there's
12
any
months.
reasoning, yeah.
And if there's
to the
reasoning,
year, whatever.
if
well,
we're
I've
going-
got it up there,
Mr.
laid
Mayor.
on, yeah,
Yeah.
laid on the table to a future meeting to get information about the agents regards to whether they wanted a longer period of time, 12 months,
To be considered.
to be considered, or the reasoning for 6 months.
We could, it's not 6
Could I
months,
ask a
Mr.
question?
Yep, well, it's less than 6 months, really.
Could
Yeah,
I-
please go ahead.
Is Manager Paul in the room?
Yes?
Yes.
To Manager Paul, do you know the answer? Do you know? What's
through-
your thoughts on this?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, they haven't come back to me and give a reasoning why they've recommended the 6 months. I wasn't in the room at their meeting when they discussed this matter. I was of the belief last year when I first went and seen them about prime sales, because it was supposed to come back to council in December, but they hadn't discussed it yet at a agents meeting, was the feel I got from the president at the time was that they were going to actually request that they no longer continue, that they continue in the weekly Tuesday sale. And when I received the correspondence letter, that's what I received, requesting the 6 months. So,
Righto, so I'll move it as I've got on the screen there, and I've said, all those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0. 13.3, Bassett Park Canteen and Maranoa Event Centre.
Yeah, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like this subject, this agenda item to be laid on the table to a future meeting, please.
Okay,
Can,
please go ahead.
That's
Could I-
well, when I get a seconder first, that'll be when I'm when I'm speaking to the motion.
and I just have a quick question at some stage that I
But if
don't.
we lay it on
Yeah.
the table, we don't
I'm happy
really...
to second it. I'm
don't
happy
need
to
a
second
second.
it,
Okay.
and I've just got a question.
We
on the-
don't need a second to
But we
lay it
can-
on the table.
Unless the deputy mayor's deferring it till a future meeting,
Well, we can defer it to a future meeting, yeah, for sure.
then you need a seconder. Laying on the table is when you request more information.
Okay, we'll defer it to another future meeting, sorry.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock, I think, said should second it. Is that correct?
I'm happy to do that. I just got a quick question that it might be about, it might help officers when they bring back the information. If that's appropriate to ask that question now.
Well, I think it is handy to
Yeah, I'm happy.
to do that, so it's
Okay.
actually more
It-
efficient.
It's anything big. Also, I'm just noting that on page 62, when we talk about the individuals and organisations to which it'll apply, and then further in the report it says who we should be talking to. I just note that it's got Roma City's Rugby League Football Club, but I'm just wondering, shouldn't it be Roma and District?
And then I'll have to get out of the room if you're going to add them in.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd say cities in there because they're the main users of the canteen.
yeah, and so yeah, sorry about that, Councillor Burkett. I understand that, but I just wonder if the Roma and District Rugby League Club should be also one of the stakeholders.
Do they use the canteen?
Yes.
They host the event. Cities use the canteen. Roma District Rugby League don't use it. They
Well, the rugby
host the
league,
event.
yeah, they don't actually use the canteen.
No, it's Cities Rugby League.
Cities do,
Yeah.
councillor.
Oh, so no other football clubs ever use that?
We don't have any more.
Not for the last. No one's silly enough to put their hand up for that job.
Oh, okay. All right then.
So
Thank
can
you.
I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
So, Deputy Mayor, you're going to, what were you doing?
Defer it to another.
Deferring
yeah.
it, so you're not actually asking for any more information?
No.
No.
I've got the information when I get a chance to talk. I will-
Oh, okay, sorry, go for your life.
We've already had one consultation out there, and the Roma Turf Club have resolved to commit a contribution, a large contribution of money, and we're just waiting on the official email from them, the request, or well, wouldn't call it a request, email from them. Director Dean might be able to have add some more to that, yeah.
I think the Deputy Mayor's correct in that the Turf Club is imminent to write a letter to Council about the matter, and I think in light of that information, which is only from last night, is that by deferring it to a future meeting, the councils will have more information in front of them about a decision about that.
Yeah. Mr Mayor, I was approached about this in about the last couple of weeks of council last year, and again, like there'd been a few discussions, and the request was that could they come and talk to council about it in the new year, and I said, it hadn't got to come here, and then this came up, so I said to the race club, if you still want to have that meeting, you work out what you just want to do if you want to make a commitment, and they did that last night, but it's only got a verbal.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
Thank you.
what page?
So we are
70,
page
thank you.
70, yeah. through the chair.
13.4, Australia Day 2023 post-event report. Do we have a mover?
I'm happy to move. I've just got a question.
So did you have a question, or were you moving, Councillor
it
Burkett?
needs to be a change in there, just so it's accurate.
Yes.
Just on the Mitchell one, just to get, I know we've gone through obviously the program of events.
Yep.
We obviously didn't have the ambassador, but we had a significant presentation, which was received really well. The Whittaker family did an award-winning short film on capital punishment and depicting the Kenneth brothers. So we had that as our, instead of the ambassador. And also our photographer was Alexis Cherry, not Kylie Wallace. I don't want to get that wrong. He'll come back big time.
Through the chair, is that Cherie or Sherry, as in SHE?
Cherry is in Cherry, CHERRY.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that.
Yeah, they're the only two. Just I thought I'd better get that right. For one,
Yep.
we want to show that family did contribute to that thing, and also the photographer. Other than that, yeah, all good.
And so, Councillor Burkett, did you just ask a question, or did you want to move it?
It was just correct.
I just wanted to make sure that was
Right,
corrected.
so then it's Councillor O'Neill that wishes to move it. Did you have a question, Councillor O'Neill?
Yeah, I do, but I'll move it first. I'll move that council receive and note the report.
Should we? I'm happy to second that. Should we just, with those subsequent changes, should we have that written in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Happy for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, we've got Councillor O'Neill's got a question, then Councillor Guthrie.
My question is just in relation to the marketing of the events. I just wouldn't mind getting a breakdown of the mail drops, because I didn't receive one in Roma, and I know there were other people that contacted me in the days leading up to the Australia Day event just to get the details. So happy for it to be taken on notice, CEO, rather than in the meeting, unless the office is there to be able to answer that. But the breakdown of the mail outs would be across the region would be appreciated.
Yep. Through the chair, we do have the officer in the room.
Oh, Di's there, is she?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
am.
Oh,
Yep.
g'day, Di.
Hi. I'm pretty sure they didn't happen. There was no mail drop in Roma. I know there was definitely one in Surat. I would have to check the other towns. I thought there was in all the other smaller. Yes.
Pretty sure one in Mitchell too. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So I think the smaller areas
The
did.
chair was what was the reason the mail drop didn't happen in Roma?
I think cost. And cost and yeah, time to do it. There's quite a long lead time required for the mail drop.
About that, one thing is I'm wondering, because sometimes to the householder gets thrown out a lot at the post office, whether we could actually develop almost like a private council list, where we could say, do you want to receive communication? And we can actually, just like your rates, put your addresses in there and send it to people, because there's a lot of correspondence from council that gets thrown out. So it could be something that we could develop that. Do we have the capacity to do that? And then we'll go into other questions.
I've got a follow-up.
Okay, CEO, is that something that we could develop a private list and like send them out?
Yes, certainly with permission from residents to
Yeah,
supply
like
those
they'd
details.
have
Yeah,
to actually
sure.
have to ask to get on the
Register
list.
to be registered to be on the list.
We get it on time next time for Roma? Like,
No,
Could
we-
I comment on that?
No, well, we've got Councillor Guthrie, I think. Oh, no, there was a follow-up question from Councillor O'Neill, then Councillor Guthrie, then Hancock.
Yeah, thanks. Mayor, just to the point that you made, I agree that there's a lot of the things that we send out that you see in the bin at the post office, but you can tailor it so it doesn't go to the business post boxes. I know there are some private ones there as well. I think there isn't a lot of value to have a mail out in Roma, just as it is in the smaller communities, recognising it is more expensive just because of the volume. But the community members in Roma are just as important as the community members outside of Roma to know what the details are in terms of Australia Day. And I think we all would agree, we want to see more people attend these events because it is recognising, our champions, our community champions on an annual basis. So if there's a longer lead in time, then we probably just need to factor that in when we organise it. But Mayor, that's probably more of a statement than a question.
Righto, so who was next? Councillor Guthrie, then Hancock.
Mr Mayor, mine's not a question, but I'd like a minor amendment to be considered. So for the Injun and District, if we could include Councillor Ladbrook as having attended the Australia Day event.
I'm happy with that.
Go in that. It's the.
Yeah, he was
Now,
I'll go after.
it was
Councillor
Councillor Hancock, I believe.
Just in relation to the comment, Mr Mayor, developing a list, we would just have to check on the cost of that, because whilst you might be able to individualise to groups of people, if you cannot individualise to individual people, that would be an addressed envelope at full postage cost, whereas householders are at a discount cost because they're unaddressed mail delivery. So you would just want to be assured that the cost that you might be thinking you're saving with the householders, you're actually going to have anyway, because it's going to cost you a lot more to post them individually, just as a comment for the CEO.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. My theory, but sometimes we've even had the fact that sometimes it's thrown out inside the postal organisation. So this way it would just be like a normal letter going to someone. And I understand they're a lot more expensive, but we may have a smaller list. So, Councillor Burkett.
A question is when it goes to the paper, is there it's just random photos that go in, just that.
It's chosen usually by our corp comms team.
Yeah, no, just our Citizen of the Year didn't get put in there, and he didn't say anything. I just thought it was a bit strange that he was bumped for another photo when he was the main.
Yeah, actually, that's another
main man.
It shouldn't have happened.
And cut the cake and everything. It was a significant thing, especially, So I was just curious, and a few people have mentioned it. Nothing against who got put in there, but I thought it was a notable admission.
Through the chair, our comms team would be receiving those photographs from our paid photographers, so we'll see what happened there, because I agree, we should be profiling things.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Major award winners should be definitely first.
Yeah, and if you can only fit two, have the group photo, which everyone's included, and then the main person, the citizen.
And
Any other questions?
I do, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, just Councillor Burkett, thank you for reminding me about that. I was just wondering if there was a reason that when it went to the paper, and by the way, congratulations, it looked amazing in the paper. But I just wondered when it went to the paper, Surat's was on a different day to the rest of the towns. And so, when you opened that paper, all of the towns were there and Surat wasn't there, but Surat had been in another edition. But if they didn't get that edition, it actually did look like a town had missed out. And so I was just wondering what happened there.
I would have to ask corp comms that.
Yeah, through the chair, happy to follow up for you.
Mr Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, please. And then
just
Councillor McMullen afterwards.
Just Councillor McMullen. Just come back to your question, Councillor Taylor. I think it's probably worth just doing a bit of a review on the comms plan for the Australia Day Awards, and just looking at the each pieces of communications that we are doing and the why, and then looking at the budget as well, and just having a bit of a basic comms plan there in place, so we make sure we don't miss any gaps there in the future. So coming back to your question about the mail out, we'll do a bit of a review on that and come back to the council about that and make sure that that's included next year in the Australia Day plan.
It is on our website and everything, right?
Councillor
We're just
McMullen.
going to make the comment, Mr Mayor. I'm not sure what happened there, as Councillor Hancock said, but once it goes to the paper, it would be out of our hands anyway.
Yep,
So they can do what they like with it. They can, I won't say what, but they can throw it in the bin. They can do what they like. So
Sometimes a standalone article draws more emphasis on it than.
But through the chair, we'll make sure that we've got our process right. Yeah.
Okay, no more questions. We have a mover. Do we have,
Yeah,
we
I
had a
sec-
second to
I
Councillor
second.
Burkett? Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks very much. From a Roma perspective, I want to congratulate the staff. I mean, I've spoken to other councillors, and we've certainly heard the comments about how successful the Australia Day Awards, were right across the region. So through the CEO, I want to thank the staff for the work that they put into making these community events a success. They are an important day on the calendar for our community, and it is all about our community. It's recognising, our champions for the last 12 months, or recognising them specifically for the last 12 months for the work that they do in our community. And I certainly saw that Australia Day celebrations were very well received with not just the award recipients, but the people that come along to support the nominees. And so I want to say again, thank you to the staff. I know a lot of work goes on in the background, particularly straight after Christmas, which is often a quieter time, and people take leave. So big congratulations and a pat on the back for the work that our team does to make these a success for our community.
Thank you.
Okay, does someone wish to speak? Councillor Burkett?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate what Councillor O'Neill said. I think it is a great achievement by all staff. I think it was one of the bigger ones. Like Mitchell, it was 145 people. That's huge. That's one of our best ones. One thing, and I know we can talk about this if we have a post-match brief, because I'd like to see the Junior Sports Award come back in. I think it's too big of a gap for just the one sports award, and I know kids have got to handle disappointment, but it is different for those, and I think we should do it case by case. If they're not, like we've done before, if they're not worthy, they don't get a look in, but I think they need to have that opportunity. So maybe in the post-match thing, saying post-match.
Post-match.
Yeah, so but all in all, I think it's great, and I look forward to celebrating again next year and bigger and better. So thanks very much, Di and your team. Yep.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, please.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I too would like to congratulate the council staff for all their hard work in the Australia Day events right across the region. There's a lot of work involved, great job. I also, as one of the delegates who sat in on the committee this year, Councillor Burkett and myself sat in on the committee, I just want to congratulate. That was a really great process too, of the nominations and going through the nominations. So thanks for the work involved with that as well. It was a really great process, and good to see the community getting on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that, and I know we are having a briefing coming up, but I do need to pass on some feedback that was given to Councillor Burkett and I. We do need to talk a bit more about the spirit of the Maranoa and how that happened, because we did have a tie and we did have to try and come together and work that out, and that was a little bit clunky, if I should say. And some of the feedback we had from two previous Citizens of the Year was that they did feel that Spirit of the Maranoa Award did take away from the Citizens of the Year. It did outshine that. That's feedback that I'm just purely passing on from previous Citizens of the Years who was part of the process. So I'll look forward to having that briefing coming up so that we can really nut out how that might look going forward, so it doesn't take the spotlight off our Citizens of the Year. But congratulations to the team for great events across the region.
I'll speak to the motion. From the feedback that I've got, I don't believe there was any overshadowing of anything. I do believe that there probably needs to be more of a clear-cut process. I do believe that you may have different award winners that have different previous award winners with different opinions. I understand that. That's a diverse community. But on the day I was there in Roma, I don't believe that it really overshadowed anything. And I believe it's always good to give the people's choice, the people a choice of an award. So I believe that's a very, very good thing, and I believe it's a general way that society is going to give people that not necessarily involved at a high level the ability to be able to pick someone. So I'd also like to thank the staff on what they have done. I'd also like to congratulate the state on funding of the Great Australian Bites. We saw considerable amount of young families down there in Roma as part of the music and food festival that they put on Australia Day. And I'd also like to thank all of the ambassadors that came around the region. They were very interesting to get to know, very inspirational people. And there again, thank the state for being involved in us being able to have those people. Unfortunately, there was an apology for our ambassador for Mitchell, and hopefully in the future we may be able to have him come back to our region, because I believe he would be a very inspirational speaker. So great work all round on Australia Day, and look forward to bigger and better with some tweaks for the next year. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thank you.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0, and we'll break for morning tea. Okay, item 13.5, new capital projects, Surat on Bungil Gallery air conditioning upgrade. Please go ahead,
Mr.
Councillor.
Mayor, I'd like to move that this agenda item this project be presented at a future budget meeting.
Okay, so do we need a seconder for that? Have we got a seconder for that?
Is it possible?
You seconding, Councillor Burkett?
Can I ask why?
Okay, well, let's hear the debate first. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I think this project should be a part of the budget. There'll be many other projects that we'll be looking through, or looking to.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Well, I'm
Councillor
a bit
Taylor?
confused, to be honest, but I mean, the budget's already there. They've saved money on something else, and they can put it towards this. And I know when I was at the gallery in Roma not so long ago, they were going on about the air conditioning and the fact that, you know, they can only have certain things because you've got to have good air conditioning. So if the gallery in Surat doesn't have air conditioning, that might hamper what exhibits they can have. So the fact that they've got the money surprises me that you want to put it on the budget.
Okay, now, does someone else wish to speak for this motion?
Just ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So is the air conditioner in Surat actually operational now? So it's not a broken down that needs to be fixed, or is this a looking forward, or is this a repair immediately because there's an issue with it?
I can answer that, Councillor Guthrie, through the chair, but I've got the officer on the line. I'd like her to reply if you don't mind. Jo, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Do you mind answering that question? Thank you.
Certainly can. Through the chair, yes, the air conditioner is currently working. We have had recent repairs on it. However, it has been an ongoing issue that the air conditioner is breaking down on occasions. It's unknown when that will happen again.
And can I ask, do you believe out of all the things that are happening in Surat, is this a high priority to get it done, as far as, especially if we're looking at ongoing maintenance costs and also the ability for people to use the gallery, or Yeah, so
De-
how do you see it from a local point of view?
Definitely, Mr. Mayor. We host 6 to 8 exhibitions a year, various artists. If we don't have the correct climate control and humidity control in that exhibition, it puts the artwork at risk of being damaged, and it also puts it at risk us at risk of putting artists off coming to display in our gallery, because we do state in our information packs that we give to artists that we do offer that air conditioning and that protection for their artworks.
Can I ask, you might have taken on notice, but approximately, do you know what we've spent on the air conditioner or any costs, or even last time when we got it repaired?
From memory, I think our last repair was around about the $3,000 mark. That was the most recent repair. It has been ongoing repairs over the years, and my apologies, I don't have a cost on that.
Mr. Mayor, through you, we did source some information from Building and Facilities that went back to 2014. Constant repairing of that asset, unfortunately, over the years. And look, roughly speaking, I think it was around $5,000 over that time period of various repairs, not including the latest one that's occurred. So I could provide that to you a bit later, though, if you need that information.
And would it be fair to say that the 40,000 might be on the high side to cover other issues like that could come up?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we'd go to the project management team. This is a sort of a saving from their project on the main building that we had the electrical fit out. We'd go to obviously to a full quote and get a competitive quote. This is just an estimate for you guys to consider.
Righto.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I was just, the only reason I seconded because I thought looking at the whole, but after hearing some of these questions, I'm happy with.
Righto. So I'll speak against the motion.
Sorry, I've got a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just says transfer funding of 40 grand from work order to a new work order to commence the project immediately prior to 30th of June. Have you got any idea, whether the whole thing's going to need replacing in it? And if 40 grand doesn't cut it, well, then obviously you're going to need more money. But and the other thing too is if it's out of commission, how do you get around that if while you're working on it? I just don't know the full facts of it, so I don't know what condition it's in, and would you need $100,000 to replace the whole thing? That's what I'm wondering. So could maybe a director or Joe?
Yeah, if you can't see, but we've got the director from Surat. Did you want to take that?
Matt, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'll refer back to the officer for this one. She knows the answer to this one, and so do I, but I'll refer to her.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the current unit is 25 years old. It's very important that we do have it there for artists. We would potentially do our best to schedule any maintenance that would occur or any replacement that would occur during a time when there is no exhibition on display in the gallery. We would do our best to work around that, and we would certainly be able to work with the artists that we have coming through if that work needed to be carried out in a hurry. We would certainly work with all the parties involved.
Yeah, but is the 40 grand enough to put a new one in?
It should. We have looked at costings, and we have had one costing come through, and that was for the entire replacement of the system.
And that's 40 would cover that.
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Councillor Guthrie.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to suggest, just for consideration, that we lay it on the table for 2 weeks. When we're in Surat in 2 weeks' time for the next meeting, we could possibly ask. Sorry,
haven't we already got a motion? Councillor McMullen's moved a motion. We're debating that motion.
Yes, I know, but I'm just offering another suggestion that may actually help people when they're going to vote on it.
Well, don't we have to deal with this one first?
Well, no. Well, Councillor Guthrie can speak against or for the motion, so she has an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, because my only concern is, Mr. Mayor, I'll vote against it, which I don't want to do, pending the consideration of maybe in 2 weeks' time getting a firm quote So rather than just say transfer funding of $40,000, you might find that it's $32,500, to which you would then say transfer funding of $32,500, which is giving you a very clear amount of money. Just, can I just finish, please?
Sorry, you've moved a procedural motion. It needs to be put.
No, she wasn't.
I haven't moved a procedure. I'm offering a suggestion. I haven't moved anything.
Oh, you said to lay it on the table. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, but they was talking that she would like to, but she hasn't asked to move.
I haven't asked for it to be laid on the table. I said, could we consider possibly, when we are in Surat in 2 weeks' time, actually having a look at it, as we've suggested with another matter, and then maybe getting a little bit of a clearer amount of money, like a quote, or rather than just go transfer $40,000 and hope that it's enough. It may be, it may be not. And I'm not against it, but I'm just saying maybe that's just something we could do as a step forward.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
I'd like to speak against the
Please
original
go ahead.
on the table, the one that Councillor McMullen has moved. Councillor Bassett second. I actually acknowledge why Councillor McMullen would do this. There is many projects that we should be looking at. So I just want to acknowledge that. The reason I do want to support this to go through today is for 3 reasons. One of them, the officer has already provided us, both the officer and the director have actually provided us, said they actually have had a quote, and that is the quote, so that they are confident to say that the $40,000 is going to be enough to cover this. I trust that they've done their due diligence as officers, and they're providing us with that as a response to our questions. Number 2, the reason I'm going to support this is because the risk associated with this. And the risk that is associated with this is other people's artwork. It is 25 years old, this system. We have been having trouble with the system. And for me, it's more about ensuring other people's artwork and keeping the reputation of the Surat on Balonne Art Gallery to the utmost standard, so that we do not lose that reputation. The community has worked really hard to have that reputation. And I think it's really important that council maintains their facility to keep that reputation. And the third reason I'm going to support this is because I hear a lot about this table and about how going back local is answering a lot of issues in the community. Well, this would be a perfect issue. We're going back local. You have the director there who is telling us that he's found savings in one area of facilities, and he's now suggesting to use that savings and put it into another facility to upgrade a system. I think that's a win-win, and it's exactly what council's asked our staff to do, and they're bringing it to the table. And on that basis, I think it should be supported today.
You mean the motion should be supported, or this motion, or
the original, Mr. Mayor.
Righto.
I'm voting against the laying on the table.
Okay. Does someone else wish to speak for or against this motion?
Yeah, I'll speak against it.
Please go ahead.
I'm going to speak against it largely for the same reasons that Councillor Hancock's just articulated. I get why the Deputy Mayor has moved what he has moved, but at the end of the day, a saving has been identified through an investment that was earmarked for Surat, and all credit to the managers of that particular project for getting it under budget. There's obviously a need. We wouldn't be seeing a report come to council if there wasn't a need to make the call on this investment into air conditioning. Like Councillor Taylor's already shared, it was a hot topic, no pun intended, at a recent art gallery exhibition launch here in Roma, about the necessity to have the right climate control. It's no different in our smaller art galleries either, and I think it's vitally important that these art galleries can attract exhibitions, whether they're local artists or from further afield. It adds to the arts and culture fabric of our community by having these facilities, and the community can access them and be comfortable in doing so, but more importantly, the artwork that's hung on the walls, that they are treated accordingly as well. So I'd like to think that we can get it under the $40,000, but I recognise that there's obviously a need for this. I see in our diaries, we've got an exhibition coming up in March Now we start to get a bit cooler then, so that the pressure may be off a little bit, but this will future-proof the Surat on Balonne Gallery to attract artists going forward. So I'm going to not support the recommendation put by the Deputy Mayor, and I urge all councillors to do the same, and that a substantive motion be put that we actually fund it.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Can I just ask a question, Mr Mayor, please?
Yeah, please.
Rather
go
than
ahead.
speak, because now there's two things that we're considering. Is there any reason why this could not be delayed for 2 weeks? A decision being made for this, is there any reason, any practical reason why it needs to go today and not in 2 weeks' time?
Through the chair, the short answer, no. I think it could be laid on the table if that's the recommendation of the council. And the air conditioning is up and running. We don't know if it'll need to be repaired again, but it's certainly functional at the moment. But in the long term, we feel this is the best option for this particular asset and the gallery. So I would recommend or support you could lay it on the table to the next meeting.
Okay, well, we're still in the debate.
I don't know if I didn't, when I spoke before, I wasn't in the debate, I don't think.
Righto, please go ahead.
Like I said before, when I first seconded the motion, I thought it was just to get a full look at the whole area. But after listening to not only the councillors, but from the staff and the director, I applaud the savings and everything like that. So I'm happy to obviously vote for the original motion, but I do understand where Councillor McMullen was coming from, but yeah, I'm supportive of the original motion.
Okay, well, I'm going to speak against the motion. I believe that if this doesn't get supported, we can do a motion. What I'm actually in favour of is not supporting this and then laying it on the table, or we make a motion to actually ask for a firm quote so we can see that at our next meeting. Because I'm not as comfortable with round figures. I'd rather get a quote. I believe the directors probably are at that level, they're delegated to go and do procurement, so they should be able to do it. And then we can just decide it at our next meeting. I don't think that will hold it up too much. So I think most of the views in the room can be accommodated. And I do think that it needs to be done. I think people in the general public would hate waste where you keep fixing things that are costing money, unreliable. It's also actually then how long does it take to get fixed? It may be a different approach we do in the future, as what Councillor McMullen is requesting, but in this case I think it's an urgent thing, so I will not be supporting this motion and would like to put up something else that directs that we get a firm quote or quotes at our next meeting for decision. Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I would just like to say the comments that you've made, I would be happy to see what happens with regard to this particular motion, but if it's defeated, I would be more than happy to support the idea of laying it on the table for 2 weeks to get a firm cost and then have it considered in 2 weeks' time when we're actually in Surat, and also request the opportunity to go and have a look. Yep.
Okay, so on that note, does the mover wish to sum up?
I don't understand what's happening here. Is people getting to talk twice? Like, what's happening?
There was a question asked before.
No, through the chair, there were some original questions. Everyone's spoken to the motion for and against.
Councillor McMullen.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'm not against the project, but I haven't seen anywhere in our budget papers or our organisation where the money that's saved in any area is automatically designated to that area. I'm of the impression it goes back into the general bucket. Yes, there's been savings within the Surat budget. It's not the first time we've seen it, but that doesn't entitle them to be spent in that area immediately. It should be going back into the main bucket, so to speak, and then we go from there.
Okay, on that note, all those in favour of the motion? All those against the motion?
Against.
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 7-1, if I can call
No,
for a division.
1-7.
1-7, sorry. I'd like to move that this lay on the table to the next meeting to receive quotes in regards to firm costings for the air conditioning upgrade. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against?
Against, and we didn't get to talk on this one.
Against.
It's just laying on the table.
Procedural, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so,
Just, I
I
thought I
didn't-
only counted 6
We
people.
lost the count. Well, I didn't.
Yeah.
Who was it? Who was a bit
So
hard in
had
the summer.
4 was-
It's 6 votes to 3. Oh, no, it's not. Whatever the...
It's 4-3.
4-3.
There's someone
Yeah,
missed. So
someone
we
was-
missed
that's
somebody.
what I thought,
Just
somebody's
ask
missing.
who's in favour.
right, all
I said
those in
yes.
favour of the motion?
That's 5.
Councillor Edwards, yes.
Right,
That's-
so that's 5-3 if
that's
I
what I
can
was
call
getting.
for a division.
Edwards.
Okay, moving on to 14.1, request for consideration of name suggestion, update of have your say responses. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 approve the request from Lisa and Dale Waldron and officially name the gully in the southern end of Curry Street, Roma, Waldron Gully. 2, charge the costs and associated approximately $500 to GL 028883.2002.2001, Local Development Officer Roma. 3, inform Lisa and Dale Waldron of Council's decision.
Okay, we have a second to Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to suggest an amendment.
Please go ahead.
I just wonder if the Deputy Mayor would be happy to include, I think we should be informing Lisa and Dale Waldron and the community of the council's decision, simply because we went out to a have your say for the community. So it would be good to let the community know what the decision of council was. If the Deputy
I'm
open to
happy.
that.
I'm happy.
Also, Councillor McMullen, would you be willing to Lisa and Dale Waldron and family?
Who put in the request?
No, but I'm just saying in general to let, like, it would be nice to get another letter to,
Surely they'll tell their family.
they will, but it might be nice to get a letter that that's actually happened. There's some people that live pretty close to there that would be.
They're the closest. They live on the creek.
No, that's right, but there was people pretty close there that are Waldrons that would also be nice to get a letter.
Well, who wrote to council?
No, nothing different to what you've said. So that's Lisa and Dale Waldron.
No,
But
see, I
there's
just-
other Waldrons involved that we could send a letter to say, as well as the community. So we could say, council has decided to.
No, I'm happy with it that way it is, Mr Mayor.
Righto.
Can I just say something? Can I just suggest that Lisa and Dale get told first?
Well, of course.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
through
good
the-
idea.
First,
Yeah.
for
Well,
the community.
I'm assuming when the resolution's over, it's not hard to ring Dale.
Yep.
No, it doesn't.
They've
It
got to
doesn't
be
say
told
that.
first.
It doesn't say that in the motion. So, is that
First.
is that your
Inform
wish?
Lisa and Dale Waldron. Who else?
Yeah, and then
First.
following
So
that,
through the chair, you could add the words, whether you inform Lisa and Dale Waldron as a priority, and the community of council's decision. That just
Not their
gives you
family though,
sequence.
Nikita. I haven't put
Yep, that's all right.
in the community.
And the community. So there's just a
Yeah, okay,
sequence.
go as a priority. Yeah,
They've only got to yell out over the back fence anyway.
yeah.
Okay. Does the move wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, Mr Mayor, this whole area there has been in the majority of that land was in the Waldron family for many, many years, and there's still 3 family members living in that same area, so I couldn't think of a better name for it.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll speak to the motion. I'm going to be supporting the motion, but disappointed that we couldn't send 3 letters to 3 families with this name. So that's the disappointment that I have, is that I believe council could have afforded 3 letters. to be sent, as well as the applicants, which I thought would be a nice touch, but I'll certainly be supporting the motion. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Then does the move wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0. Item 14.2, letter of support request, Roma Show Society. I'd like to move the council, 1, provide in principle support to Roma Show Society to install semi-permanent stables at Bassett Park, Roma. 2, endorse a letter of support from the Mayor on behalf of council to Roma Show Society for their grant application. And 3, ensure all building and planning applications and approvals are met before work commences if successful. We have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Does any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Just got a question.
Please go ahead.
Just through the chair to the officer, informing the recommendation to provide in principle support. Has a conversation occurred? I just can't see it in the report with the Turf Club. I see that the Show Society have reached out to other users, but have we?
Page 88.
I'm on page 88, and it says
Second
the
last
Show-
paragraph, they've reached out and made contact with Cutting Club, Turf Club, Roma and District Rugby League.
With
Through
all-
the chair,
with
I
all-
think the councillor's
yeah,
asking
with all due
about
respect,
staff.
thank you, Councillor Guthrie. I asked had staff.
Yep.
Righto, please
Very
go ahead.
clearly says the Show Society has. I asked has staff.
Thank you, Mayor. So to the councillor's question, it's Dean Elwood. When the Show Society approached me in relation to the option of putting these stables in, the conversation was around the location, which we personally went out and had a look at, and my main comments were so the short answer, councillor, sorry, is no, I've not. Council hasn't spoken to them direct, but the intent was that the Show Society approach all those other user groups and have conversations with them and let me know about the feedback that they had about that. And so the only comment that I'd heard in relation to it was in relation to if there'd be any issues about visibility for the stewards and for the camera and the track. And I think the profile that we've looked at in relation to the stables themselves are of a low enough that wouldn't. And you'll note then that the Show Society's option around putting on a roof would be the optional component that they could take on and off if they needed to.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, I've got a conflict.
Oh, now you tell us.
Well, I didn't, to be honest, I was happy with what was written in there, so I didn't,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
because
up to
Rome District
page
Rugby
88.
League's been mentioned.
Yeah.
I'll have to declare a conflict.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, Keita. Just go off the top of my head.
Take off.
Harsh blow. Sorry, bear with me.
We will.
Yeah. Well, I'll go to a previous as per before. Somewhere. Anyway, I'll just. On L 14.2, letter of support request, Roma Show Society, declaring council myself, party of interest myself. Particulars, I'm the Vice President, Roma District Rugby League, and they are listed in the report. Type of conflict, declarable conflict of interest, and action I'll take as I'll leave the room while the matter's been discussed and voted on. And I'll send that to you soon, Nikita.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Just got a follow-up question.
Please go ahead.
So I appreciate that the Show Society has reached out to other users. Are you saying, Director Dean, that the feedback, which I can't draw from the report,
Yes.
from the other users, have been that they are supportive of these semi-permanent stables?
Yes, that's the short answer. The only comment that I'd had received via the Show Society was in relation to any issues about impinging on, from the Turf Club, impinging on the viewability, any visual access issues for the stewards, and in dealing with that by the height of the proposed structure, that wouldn't impact.
And so that is as it would currently stand. What about if they opt to put a roof on that structure at a later date? Is that going to then impact that visibility?
I think in two parts. I'll say that I'm not certain about that, but it could do. But having looked at the other infrastructure over there, where the cutting yard is and that raised berm, and there's a structure on top of that it would be lower than that anyway. But equally, the intent was that it's a removable roof structure, and so it wouldn't be necessarily there to have an issue in relation to race days.
Thank you.
Councillor McMullen.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, in relation to Councillor O'Neill's question, I think it was noted out there on Saturday at the races that when the horses went around past that area, they can't be seen now, so they didn't, the Show Society people didn't believe it would have any effect because you can't see the horses now anyway.
Is that Councillor McMullen as a patron of the show, or of the races, or are you saying that the caller can't currently see?
The what, sorry?
Caller.
The caller, the race caller.
Well, the caller, no, standing on the ground watching.
Yeah. Because the only reason and don't get me wrong, I'm supportive of this because it continues to improve the facility. I just know through the master planning process that we undertook with Bassett Park, and I appreciate the structure that was being floated will have been much higher than what is currently being put forward. The main negative that was coming from the Turf Club was that loss of sight for the race caller to see the horses. So I just want to make sure that that's covered. And I wonder, Mayor, is it as simple as just having in there providing principal support in brackets subject to confirmation from the Roma Turf Club?
I got a quick, Mr Mayor. Understand what you're saying, Councillor O'Neill. This resolution hasn't said where they're going to put them anyway. And because they're portable, we could work that out later. I note we need to have it sorted pretty quick because the funding finishes on the 28th. We haven't said anything about a location, and as Director Dean said, they asked semi-portable or semi-permanent, whichever way you look at them.
It is. The report references the location being the purple shaded area on the map on page 88. The Show Society intends on placing the stables on that purple shade, which I assume that's where they're going to put it if that's what they're saying. And
Which
if we
purple shade? Oh yeah, the horse camping yard.
Yeah, and that first paragraph underneath it says it. They intend on placing the semi-permanent stables on the horse camping yards in the purple shade.
That's right. And that's behind that mound. Yeah.
Or adjacent. It's.
Pardon?
The only reason I raise this is just so we've got due diligence, because we're giving in principle support, which we should, but there is another user that had raised real concerns about any infrastructure being built in that middle area previously. So if we just put in there subject to confirmation from the Turf Club, then doesn't that round it out?
Look, through the chair, can I make a suggestion? I understand what you're suggesting there, Councillor O'Neill, but potentially is modified point 3, because really what we're talking about, rather than delaying an application process which is imminently due, is ensure all building and planning applications and approvals are met, and that it could be race caller visibility is maintained before work commences if successful. So you're wrapping it up in that construction process rather than slowing down the application process.
That's what, I was referring to. Need to get the if it's going to go.
And potentially still achieving the same aim.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm happy to have race caller visibility is maintained at current levels.
Yes, yeah.
Councillor Guthrie, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Mayor, can I just ask one more question?
Yep, go ahead.
Just on that point that you've included, that then makes it firm that the visibility is maintained. What happens if you talk to the race caller and, you know, they're comfortable and Racing Queensland's comfortable that for whatever length that is, they do lose visibility, but that's okay. It's within, you know, the margin of error or whatever the, you know, parameters that they use. Like, have we just locked this project into having to have that visibility when, in fact, by talking to the people and the stakeholders involved, they may, in fact, be comfortable because of, you know, the parameters of the project?
Well, my view is I'm happy with the way it is. It doesn't hold up the Show Society. The Show Society has had problems trying to get approvals to do things. I think it's very important. We could easily do a rescission motion. We've done that many, many times if there is something else sorted out between the groups. So I think this is quite a good compromise and quite safe and actually gets it to happen. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
7-0.
7-0, sorry. Yeah, it's Councillor Burkett. Sorry. Thank you for that.
14.3.
Page 93.
Request to use Roma Saleyards facility for livestock and property Outback Tucker under the stars. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that Council 1 approve Easter in the Country's request to hire out the Roma Saleyards to host the livestock and property Outback Tucker under the stars as part of Easter in the Country on Thursday, the 6th of April 2023, and to assist Easter in the Country and facilitate their in-kind assistance request, and that the costs are captured in a report to be considered by Council.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
No, thanks.
We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
Page 98. Okay, item 14.4, True Country Roma 2023. I'd like to move that Council 1 providing principal support for True Country Initiative, for the True Country Initiative. 2, endorse a letter of support from the Mayor on behalf of Council to True Country for their green application. 3, in conjunction with the developers of True Country, further develop a detailed budget and sponsorship proposal to be presented at a future ordinary meeting for Council. For consideration.
Ordinary meeting, future ordinary meeting for Council for consideration.
Yep.
Or to Council for consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Guthrie.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say, yesterday we had a briefing and actually had 2 gentlemen who are overseeing or basically the impetus for this one. And it's a pretty exciting opportunity for the Maranoa, and I just really look forward to this one coming to fruition. I think it'll be a very, very positive event, and I think it'll put the Maranoa on the map.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. I'm very excited about really activating the whole town as far as music. of the CBD. And perhaps maybe in the future this could grow to the whole of the Maranoa. So I love the grassroots idea. I think that is the way to go. And we look forward to seeing whether we can partner and bring some great music to the Maranoa. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
Okay, fantastic. And then page 107.
Page 107, requests for report regarding connectivity in the Bungil region. I'd like to move that a report be prepared for the next council meeting in regards to a costing for a booster at in the vicinity of the Injune Information Centre to improve general communications coverage. And then 2, for a for a future meeting in time for grant opportunities working through Telstra, a extra communication strategy be brought back for council decision for in June.
So through the chair, did you want to go as far as saying that a proposal be prepared for the round 3 of the regional
For the point 2,
communication?
we can change that to that. That sounds better.
For the regional communications funds, I think it's
We might change point 2 for a regional for the regional communications fund.
that a proposal be prepared for the regional
I've
communications.
just got a question.
Because that's what you were talking about, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, we'll just get this and then I'll go to Councillor Edwards.
Regional Communications Fund for a partnership project between Telstra and MRC, is it? To resolve,
Telstra and MRC.
to resolve long-standing issues.
Yeah, we need
In
to also
Injune?
say, for an extra,
Okay, for additional, like another tower? Is it?
it's either an extra tower or an extra facility in the town of Injune,
So
because
for
we
additional
know,
infrastructure, isn't it?
it's not just upgrading what they should be doing anyway.
So through the chair, to resolve long-standing issues, or just say to provide additional infrastructure for in June. And did you want to say, and potentially other sites? I don't know. Or did you just want to focus on in June for this particular?
Well, we'll just go, Councillor Edwards, what was your question?
Just number 1 there, are you sure that it's in regards to a booster? I don't know the exact terminology of it, but what do we do? What's necessary for us to improve general communications in that area? Is it a booster or what is it?
Yeah, no, it is a booster, and I've had discussions with Telstra about it, and I'm sure the IC department know all about it, and there could be a booster to boost the signal in that area.
Sure, it's not a tower. It's not a tower.
No, this is like a relatively small amount of money. That's why I've got it for the next meeting. But the tower is a large amount of money. So.
Okay.
You're hungry.
Always hungry.
long as it's not locking us into just doing one thing in the report, that's all.
No, through the chair, Councillor Edwards, Telstra has provided us with costings for a booster solution in that site.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's for the next meeting, and that would help for this season if council decide to do it. But two is that the proposal is for what we talked about today, for structure for in June. And then we might put point 3, that other communities in the Maranoa,
Do you want to investigate?
other communities in the Maranoa be investigated for future rounds
Yeah, right.
of the, what's it called?
That RCF program.
The Regional Communication Fund Grant Program.
Yep.
Yeah. Righto, do we have a seconder?
I have a
Councillor
question.
Taylor?
I have a
or
question, actually.
Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Just in the first point you've got there, is that just to boost around the information centre?
Yeah, like for the public.
Well, didn't Ruben
It's
say they already done that?
It's already done.
No.
Yes, he did. He said they have it working between
Yeah,
that
so-
and the hall, all that
and
area.
they do, Councillor Taylor, for data, but not necessarily for mobile coverage.
Well, we don't say mobile coverage there, do we?
No, the booster is for both. Yeah, like if you've got any of the providers, you know, the Telstras or the Vodafones or Optus or whoever.
There he is.
Oh, Ruben,
Question for you, manager. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah,
Ruben,
so please ask your question.
Ruben, before when we were in talking with Telstra, didn't you say that around the information centre and the hall and the chips and all that, you had a really good...
That was just for the internet connectivity for hotspotting. So if someone bought in if they want to connect from their phone, not so much for voice communications through 4G, but for the laptop, or if they're wanting to connect to the internet directly.
Okay, so this booster will help the rest.
Yes, so if you're looking for maybe like a cell-fi booster for, say, the information centre with a 4G, that's probably something we could look at to give a hotspot for the community to go to make sure they've got appropriate 4G coverage internally for that building.
Mr Mayor, the booster you're talking about, that's for the whole town though, you're talking about?
Yeah, no, the first one is for that localised area.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not
what I
for the
thought.
whole town.
Yeah.
The second one is applying for a solution for the whole
Yeah, but-
injury.
Yeah,
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 So that-
and
Come out.
yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And through the chair, the booster's, I think, less than $2,000, so.
what, for the whole town?
No,
No,
for the
for
visitor
around
information
the
centre.
But what, how's that going to help the rest of the people in
It
town?
won't, but it's just an immediate solution for mobile coverage. And then number 2 is about the long-term solutions for in June.
And point 1 has been requested by residents in the community.
I'm getting confused because we're saying it'll only help around the civic, around the
The immediate,
information centre, not going to help the people living in the rest of the town.
no,
No,
that needs,
because that solution is a big money solution, right? So you won't, so one is, there's been requests for the poor coverage around there, so the cell-fire booster or whatever brand will help that.
Yeah, I understand that, but we're going to do that
So
for that
that's-
area, not for the rest of the town.
That's point 1, but point 2 is dealing with the whole town, right? So point 1 would never do that, but point 1 is we can deliver quite quickly if council support that. So we'll get a costing back for next meeting. Point 2 is about the big solution for the whole town. So one is about the booster, and that will be, if you're having a cup of coffee, you pull up around there, you'll get good coverage. And that is poor coverage at the moment. So that's what we're getting a report.
Yeah,
So they're two totally separate things. Okay, so do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? I do want to speak. This has been ongoing and sadly a year has nearly gone past. I'm glad there's some action now and I'm glad that we can look at putting in a solution for the whole of Injune. Residents call it the one bar town and we need to change that. And it's not just that there's one bar, but they can't really do data. They also can't do, phone calls drop out, whatever the reason. I think we need extra infrastructure there. We really need like a modern sort of facility in town for 4G and so forth, and it needs to be able to get into people's homes to increase the livability and enjoyment. As well as this, in point one, is actually fixing something that we could do quite quickly and give much better service if you're on the deck up there around and just for that immediate area. So, and then point three is about looking at our other towns which have poor communications and looking at them for future round funding. So we can really improve the livability of communications being part of that in the Maranoa. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 Okay, that's 8-0, and we will break for lunch back in an hour. So let's go with the actual, keeping going with the meeting. So we'll start again. We'll obviously would someone like to move a procedural motion to bring forward LC2?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we,
We're not going to get it up there.
I'd like to move a procedural motion to bring LC2 forward on the agenda list, please.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
Okay, 8-0. Okay, now we
Do the
then...
CLIs. Yep.
So I'll call the item LC2, lot 15, WV on 1343 Carnaarvon Highway, Euthulla, DA 2013/18600. Okay, conflicts. I think I've already declared a conflict on this item before, haven't I?
Yes, you have.
Yeah. So, so I've declared a conflict on this, and I will be, do I need to go and say it all again? or-
No, through the chair, if you've declared a conflict before and you're leaving the chamber, it would be good for the completeness to say, I have declared a conflict in the past, and I will stay in the chamber and put the vote to my peers or leave the chamber.
But Councillor Edwards would have to be, because you can't vacate until he's done, is it?
No, that's right. But just for clarity, I have declared a conflict of interest on this matter before because I have opposed the dump and will be leaving the room and having no further discussions on this. Is there any other conflicts?
Councillor Edwards, I've got a conflict.
Please go ahead.
I'm not sure whether I've done it before, but I'll do it again anyway. Declaration of interest. Item number is LC2. Description is lot 15 WV 1343 Carnaarvon Highway, Euthulla, DA 2013/18600. Submissions. Declaring council as Councillor Mark Edwards. Party with the interest is myself. Particulars of the interest. I was a submitter to the original application by the company We Can Do Proprietary Limited. I provided a written submission and an objection to the original application, and the action is I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, do we have someone to go into closed? Councillor McMullen.
Where are we? We can't put it on the screen, can we?
Just on the first page, page 1.
Page 1.
In accordance.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move in accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. A local government may resolve to close a meeting to the public to discuss confidential items that its councillors or members consider it necessary to close the meeting. The items are LC1, sole supply arrangement, LC2, lot 15 WV 1343, Carnaarvon Highway, Euthulla, DA 2013-18600.
Submission.
Oh, this. Sorry, C3, strategic quarry pit investigation, and C4.
We're only doing the one.
But you've done LC 1 and 2.
Oh, I got to do
Just
C1.
do the
okay.
others.
Okay,
and then they're all
C1,
done.
Roma pump track project funding for additional elements. C2, application for funding under Queensland Government Mine and Infrastructure Program. C3, strategic quarry pit investigation. And C4, Infrastructure Agreement, reference 2022-20658.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
So are we, because we've only moved that first agenda item to be dealt with next, are we dealing with all the rest, or are we going to just deal with everything in close and then come out and change it about?
I would imagine that we'll just deal with that one item and then obviously we'll get all the councillors back then. Yep. And then,
Right, so then
you know,
this motion is really just for the first bit to close it.
yeah, but we've
Right.
done it anyway for all the items. So if this gets up, then we've approved to go into close for all of them, but we may come back out and do the normal agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favour?
Yes.
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 Okay, now I will leave the meeting before they go into close or whatever.
We're in closed. Okay, LC2, lot 15 WV 1343, Carnaarvon Highway, Euthulla, DA 2013-1860. Do I have a mover? Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Burkett.
I move the council receive and note the report.
Seconder, please.
second.
Councillor Taylor beat you, Mr. Councillor now. Is there any opposition or anyone wish to speak for or against? All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
6-0. Okay, we'll get the mayor and...
Do you want to go back?
Adjourn.
Yep,
Go
and we'll get yep, it's okay. We'll get the mayor and then
Mayor,
we can go back
sorry.
into confidential and.
Adjourn, maybe. Yeah, could adjourn for a minute, please.
We can keep going.
Yeah.
We've got 3 councillors online.
We do.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, L1 road closure. Oh, we had some in the main one too, didn't we?
No, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
It's
just these ones, yep.
2 L1. You know the tools.
Did we do the main one?
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
finished
done all
the
that.
first...
L1, we're ready to go.
We are, right.
Cool.
Table from the other one, isn't it?
But that was
we haven't got any.
that was the
You decided,
Saleyards.
and
that
in
we'd
the end you
leave it to
decided
another
that you went to a future meeting. So, that's right.
Okay,
310,
anything else we
page
missed any?
1. Oh, page 2.
Yeah, right. Okay. L1 Torwood, I should say, Mungallala.
Oh, I can't spell.
And I'd like to also just, it's Mungallala.
Mr Mayor, is it Torwood or Torwood?
We got it.
Yeah, we got it right.
Torwood.
Yeah, that's what I...
Yeah, it's Torwood is the correct way.
Oh, look at that.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't...
A report, I'd like to move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting, canvassing the views of the stakeholders in the area.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yes.
What's a paper road?
Through the chair. In essence, when the state started to carve up land across the state and across states, usually after World War One, they created access roads. They split properties and created access roads. If those access roads were never developed, they're still there as access roads to properties, but we call them paper roads because they're undeveloped. So they still sit there as a legitimate road that
But
could
you
be.
can't drive on them?
You could if you wanted to, and you could improve them. You could reinstate them, or not necessarily reinstate them. You could improve them and turn them into, for want of a better word, a real road, a formed road. But they are a genuine road, and they are genuine access to that property. There's just millions of them that sit as paper roads on plans that have just been undeveloped.
On people's property or
Yeah, absolutely.
on their property?
When they did those soldier settlements, they put access roads into those parcels. But over time, people started to amalgamate those properties and stuff like that, so that they never formed the roads. And if you think about when a lot of that work was being done was pre-vehicles, and so people developed the access roads they needed to for larger properties, and so there were still old paper roads still sitting around on maps.
I've just never heard the word before.
No, but it's on there, yeah.
Yeah, I
but-
believe it.
Mr Mayor, just a question of the CEO. Is it actually a designated road reserve?
Yes, it's a designated
It's not
access.
one of these floating ones. There's some properties have
No.
a floating road reserve that's never been allocated, so they might own 10,000 acres, but they got 10,080 acres because there's a float.
No,
It's actually shown as a road reserve.
It's actually shown
Now
as a road reserve, and it stays as an access road
Yeah,
forever.
It's technically, it's not,
yes.
it's unimproved, but it's there.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's
And invariably, you
Can
only
I-
find out about the paper roads when somebody wants to do something with them, or when properties are sold or shared, or there's a dispute over access to a property.
boundaries, like the other one.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Are you finished, Councillor McMullen? I didn't want to cut you off.
You're right. No, I'm finished. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just wondering, it says that a request has been received. How has the request been received? Because normally when we get these sort of requests, they write to council and it comes to us via a letter or something that we've got. So, yeah, I'm just wondering how this request has been received by council.
I've received the request from the resident of Mungallala that has land adjacent to that, and I said that I would take that request to council, and obviously if this is adopted, we'll go and get all the information as far as the map and all the rest of it, so.
I too have been contacted by the
Right.
person.
Yeah, okay.
Just by phone with me, Councillor Hancock.
Yeah.
All right.
My other question is, through you, Mr Mayor, this particular paper road, is it through their property or along the side of their property?
Along the side of their property.
Yeah, so through the chair, when we get a report coming back, we can give you aerial maps.
Well,
to
what I'm saying
give
is
you
if it's,
indication.
if it's adjoining road reserve with a neighbour, they have to go to the department. If that road, paper road's there, and Joe Bloggs owns this and they own this, it's got to go to the DNR.
Well, that's what we'll find out, I guess.
Well, we've already, we know that, we've already been told that.
Yeah, but it's really, the idea is getting the report, is getting the information.
Yeah.
And
If
the
it's
customer.
I'll second Mr Mayor.
Okay, all good?
Right. We have councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 Okay, that's 8-0. L2, Mitchell St George Road, Maranoa. I'd like to move that Council A endorse the Mayor and CEO to hold an urgent meeting with the local DTMR directed to find alternative TMR funds or unallocated unspent RMPC funds to widen the shoulders to rectify safety issues along approximately 8 kilometres of the road. And it's on Mitchell St George Road.
Mr Mayor, we better put that in the resolution.
I think he's just putting that.
Yeah, I'll just put it in there now. Yep.
Oh, you're putting it on, you just said, I think it's along there.
Yes. It's approximately 8 kilometres of the Mitchell St George Road. B, note that the RMPC contract between Council and TMR is limited to maintenance only. It does not extend to upgrade and/or widening works. 3, advocate at a meeting at the meeting for road counting and additional funding, additional to the annual RMPC contract, to be allocated in the 23-24 budget to undertake widening along the Maranoa section of the Mitchell St George Road. and I'll actually add a bit more to that, as feedback from residents is the St George section of the Mitchell-St George Road is at a much higher standard than the Maranoa, or I should say Balonne, the Balonne section of the Mitchell-St George Road is at a much higher standard and wider than the Maranoa section. Just give it time to get that right. Yeah. And then D, receive a report at a future briefing in relation to the historic expenditure in the works plan and works planning for Mitchell-St George Road under RMPC contract. Do we have a second? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition?
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just so I'm clear, 1 and 2 seem to contradict each other. So in 1, so I don't have a problem with it. It just seems it doesn't make sense to me. In 1, we're saying that we want to have an urgent meeting to say that we need to widen the shoulders along this road. And in 2, we're saying that we're going to write to them and we note that they only do maintenance and that does not extend to upgrading the widening works. So isn't this a waste of time?
No, through the chair, that's a good question because number 2 is exactly how the contract currently stands. It's a maintenance contract. However, there is the ability for us to advocate to DTMR to utilise some portion of that contract to leverage funds from the state to undertake urgent works. And that's essentially what 1, 2, 3 and 4 are trying, or 1, 2 and 3 are trying to do, is leverage immediate support in relation to road safety works, recognising there's a mismatch between the 2 sections and there's some serious safety concerns.
Okay, any other questions? I'll speak to the motion. It is a really serious matter, and the feedback that I've had from residents of Mitchell is that there may well be a fatality on this road caused by the narrow sections of the road. When you go into Balonne, they're much wider sections. The road is at a better standard, so one of the points is really saying what's happened to Maranoa as far as why isn't the Maranoa end at the same standard as the rest of the state highway. And there can be different ways in which to be able to find ways to be able to fund this, and we need to have a solution very quickly so they have all-weather edges to be able to get off the road when vehicles are coming, and especially heavy vehicles. So, the road counting issue is that residents believe the road counting has been done at not times of general traffic when it's busier. It just looks like the Maranoa end is letting the side down as far as the width of road and the quality of the road. So I think it's something that really needs some urgent attention as quick as possible.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Or actually, yeah, just a bit of a question. So, it's a state road, so the state look after it.
Correct.
So why would they be looking after one section better than the other?
That's a good question, and but it's up to us to actually highlight the fact that it is a much higher standard on the Balonne section.
I'm wondering why they would do that, though. I mean, wouldn't it be just...
I'm not an expert, I can answer that.
What?
Councillor
Driving
McMahon.
that first set, Mitchell end was bitumen a long, long time ago, and it was dirt. The rest of it was dirt, and I think it was bugger all. You came out of St George on bitumen. I think the dirt was nearly
Even
dirt.
in the late
Yeah.
90s, 2000.
But the Mitchell end's the only end left of narrow bitumen, but there was all dirt from the rest of the way
So
down.
the St George Road is newer?
Yeah, the bitumen.
I think
The bitumen,
yeah.
like their asset management thing might have been, ours was done earlier.
But
what do you call it? the width probably in those days was that width.
Oh, yeah,
So
for
the
sure.
standard was, that was the right standard back
So they
in the
haven't
day.
brought it up
No.
to standard? Really?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Guthrie?
I'd just like to say that at the Bring Action Group last week, there was some pretty passionate advocating for this to be a major priority, and there were a lot of anecdotes being shared about concerns of safety and a whole range of other things. So I am glad that they've advocated for it, because if it is as bad as they are saying, it is an accident just waiting to happen. So hopefully we can have a positive outcome out of this.
Councillor Burkett?
Yeah, I'll be supporting this. Before I was on council, I attended every bag meeting, and it was brought up often, especially in tourist season. I had a phone call last night from a concerned grazier who's he traverses that road all day, every day, but he also has got property on the north, and it frustrates him, although he's happy that the Forest Far Road's been widened exactly what he's been wanting for the St George Road, and the traffic is like poles apart. So there's cattle trucks, freight trucks, even cotton trucks are coming through there. So when you do get off the road, like I've been in a situation like this gentleman, you have to get out around the guidepost. You got to get off the road completely, and if you don't know what you're driving in there, because a lot of time it's not slashed. Caravan is another big issue. Like they're not used to driving a bush road, so it's an accident waiting for them. So I do think it's a good thing that we can support this, and definitely you can't compare one end of that road to the other, because you can't fathom it. But definitely supporting this.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to back up what everyone said, but having previous life travelled that a bit in trucks, it definitely has been a bad section for many years.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I'll sum up. Yeah, the biggest thing that concerns me is the predictions of a fatality there, and there's some incredibly nervous local residents, and I think as a council we can do better than that. So I think we need to put our best foot forward. Even though it's not a council road, we need to, it really shakes it into reality when this road is in much narrower than the rest of the road as a general thing. Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0. L3 Depreciation Review 2022-23. I'd like to move that Council 1 acknowledge this report responds to OM/04.2022/36, and 2 receive and note the report. I do have a question. Is that enough that I note in there that there is work being done? Will that happen anyway, as far as the depreciation work, or do we need to have something in the motion to approve it?
No, through the chair, the motion itself was to bring the matter back to a briefing, which did occur some time ago. What it was is to raise that awareness of council that yes, we had briefed you in the past, but we've actually procured that support now to undertake that review. I mean, it is a diagnostic review, and I have the Director of Corporate Services who could talk further to it if you need to.
No, that's fine, as long as it's happening. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Sorry, I do have a question.
Please go ahead.
So just so I'm clear, is there more work to be done, and we're engaging a financial consultant to do that work?
Through the chair, simply put, yes. With our depreciation, it's been about 5 years since we've done a really deep dive into depreciation. So yes, it is somebody who's skilled at doing that work, so it is a financial consultant that will be doing that work. The criticality about doing it in this year is, okay, it's before your budget next year, but that deep dive will be also diagnostic. What is the work that you need to do to make sure your depreciation is right? Why it's $20 million a year? But most importantly, it is understanding that you are going into a period where you have significant reconstruction of your road assets, which are a large portion of your assets. It's a case of let's look at our approach to depreciation. It will be also looking at low-hanging fruit in relation to useful lives, and giving council a guided path to staying on top of depreciation. But I might refer to the Director of Corporate Services because you would have some comments as well.
Yeah, if I can, thank you for the question. Just by way of example, when you look at the net result, which we don't look at currently on a monthly basis, you'll see an item there that's called capital expenses. What that refers to, as the example, that refers to a mismatch between the useful life of an asset or a majority of it relates to the mismatch between the useful life of the asset and when a renewal or an upgrade occurs. And by way of example is we want to try and refine the useful life to make sure that it is matching those renewals and those upgrades, so that we don't have those large expenses coming through at that level, and we see a proper depreciation line being affected over the period of the asset. That's one example. By way, the other side of it from a diagnostic perspective, we won't necessarily see the effects this financial year, but hopefully we'll see something in the next financial year.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0. Okay, any further business, councillors?
We're going to go in the close.
Going into close?
That's right, of course.
Ready to rip through them too.
I was going to say, it's only 3:30. We can't be going home yet.
No such thing as you can't. We might be able to.
I don't think so.
Okay, so do we have someone to go into closed?
I move we go into closed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
8-0. Okay, if we can get the sign put up.
Mr Mayor, I'll move. What number is it? I better go to the right. C.
No, John's got a his conflict.
No, we've got to split it first.
No.
We've got to split it before we do anything if we're going to do that.
I don't think
you do, because then you can declare the conflict on the bid.
Right.
Please go ahead, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, it's C2. I would like to move that item C2, Project 10, be removed from this. We deal with a Project 10 separately.
Yep. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 Okay, 7-0. Now, Councillor McMullen, Councillor Burkett, you've got a conflict?
Well, no, Mr Mayor, it can't. I'm sorry, it can't be 7-0.
I can't vote on it if you're talking about number 10.
It was a procedural motion to bring it out.
Yeah, you probably can
deal with it separately.
Okay.
So let's do it again. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you voting, Councillor? Yep.
Okay.
All-
8-0.
Yep. Councillor Hancock and Edwards.
I said yes.
Yes.
Okay, it must chopped off or something. Okay, so it's 8-0 now. Councillor Burkett.
I'm going to declare a conflict on item C2, description, application for funding under Queensland Government Minor Infrastructure Program. Declaring council as myself, party with interest as myself. Particulars of the interest, I have a conflict as I'm the president of the Mungallala Combined Sports Club and the Mitchell Rugby League Football Club, and the Project 10 refers to the Mitchell Football Oval. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest, and action I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
So, Councillor Burkett, are you happy to put in there C2 item 10?
C2 item 10. Thanks,
Yep.
Nikita.
Righto. So
Project 10, sorry, it is actually.
Project 10. Okay, so you've done that. So we've split them up. So now we can go back into closed, right? And you can deal with
project
we
came
can,
first, yeah.
we can deal with all of them as we go along. We're not making decisions in closed.
No.
Councillor
I'll
McMullen?
move that
We go back into
Close.
we go back into close. I don't think we have to go through the whole rigmarole.
No.
No.
And do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, all those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, 8. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah,
Mr Mayor, I'll move. Are we right?
yeah, please go ahead.
I'll move. Oh. Where are we, Nikita? I'll move. Nikita moves quicker than me. I'll move that council not consider project 10 any further with respect to funding under the Queensland Government's minor infrastructure program.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 7-0.
Go back into closed. We need to go back into closed. Yeah.
We'll
So
wait.
Just waiting for the councillor. That's all right.
Yeah, I can sign this. No, you're right. I didn't.
We better go back into closed.
Yep.
We have to move it.
Okay, does someone want to move
I'll
into
move
closed?
we go back into closed.
We have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Taylor's first. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cameron.
Yes.
8-0.
8-0. Okay, is there anything in closed that we haven't done?
I don't believe so,
In
but I could be
the C, not the lake, but the confidential, it's all done.
all done.
That is all done. That's right.
Okay.
Now,
No, I don't think it could be, could it?
Through the chair, we did decide one item.
No, we haven't, we haven't done the, we're
we
still in closed.
No,
Like C1, we haven't, so we done that one? Yeah. Made the decision?
Yes.
We
I
haven't
don't
made
think
the
so.
decision. No.
he's
Through the
saying
chair.
C1 ready to read out to do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We haven't made the decision.
No, that's what
So
he's
we've done
saying.
it in closed, but C1, the item, we haven't actually made a
No.
decision.
We're in open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were right
that's
what you
it.
were going to
That's
do.
right. We're now making, yes.
Too confused.
Yeah,
today.
C1, Roma Pump Track, project funding for additional elements. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 note the report by way of update to the Roma Pump Track project and actioning of resolution number OM/12.2022/45. 2, assign $20,000 from the existing 200,000. What did I say? 20? No, let's go 200,000. Number 2, assign 200,000 from the existing footpath extensions budget allocation included in the current 2022-23 budget to deliver footpaths and shading at the Roma Pump Track project. 3, allocate $150,000 from the Energy Contracts Reserves APLNG to deliver landscaping and irrigation for the Roma Pump Track project. 4, work with a local landscaping company to refine the current design and an estimated cost of the irrigation and landscaping for the Roma Pump Track project. And 5, refer to the lighting component on Council's unfunded capital works register for presentation and consideration when external opportunities arise.
We have a second, Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Taylor.
You didn't do number 6.
Oh,
Didn't
Oh, yeah.
sorry. It's not on the page. We must have made this one up.
Not on the page.
But it's an extra one if the mover would be happy.
No, I'm happy with it. Number 6, discuss potential opportunity for cost and time savings by using specialist pump track contractor World Trial for the Euthulla pump track, noting that was considered a high priority on the Euthulla master plan.
Okay, so is the seconder happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd just like to say that we have now been in this term of council for a number of years, and this one is one that is coming to fruition, and it's very, very exciting to see that step by step we're getting there, and I'm sure the young people of the Maranoa, both Roma and now Euthulla, will get the opportunity to get on their wheels and actually try it out.
On their wheels.
Okay,
The
does someone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Taylor?
I too would just like to say I'm just so pleased that the soil's going to turn and there's local contractors involved, which is really good as well. So yeah, just can't wait to get it going.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Burkett?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to follow on from the previous two councillors and also thank Deputy Director and his staff. Awesome job to get it to this far, and it has taken a while, but yeah, it is good to see it to come to fruition. Yeah.
Okay, does someone else wish to speak? I'll speak to this one. I'm very glad. It takes forever to get contractors in this sort of world of major, supply problems. Very glad that we've got them to be on site. They did much consultation, and I'm extremely glad that as part of operating locally and really the different focus that we're looking at doing different options and trying to group projects together and get them done. The Euthulla community has been extremely patient on as far as the projects that are being done there with the APLNG livability funding, and obviously so has APLNG been patient. So hopefully this is a way to deliver some of that project quicker whilst we've got contractors on site. So very happy to support this motion. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up?
No, I'm good, thank you.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 Okay, 8-0. C2, application for funding under Queensland Government Minor Infrastructure Program. I would like to move that council...
Do I have to?
You've got split motions here.
Remember, I've got to get out for one.
no, well,
We
Councillor
dealt with
Burkett has been dealt with, that motion.
Oh,
there. You
that's
had a
right.
conflict.
Yeah, we've decided that. Thanks.
So, what do we call it? It's, so the other one was 10, so this is probably just a normal
Yeah, 1 to
project, is
9,
it?
Yes.
C2.
C2, so I would like to move that council apply for funding under the Queensland Government Minor Infrastructure Program for Project 1, lighting of the walking path loop and installation of additional scooter jumps at Mitchell Memorial Park. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I certainly do. I believe there's a lot of worthy projects in this whole list, but I believe this one is probably the most likely to have the correct amount of money to get the maximum benefit for the Maranoa community with the contribution. I believe it's the sort of funding that it's at the maximum amount that a council of our size would get. I also have seen that the Mitchell community have said over the years there has been very little spent in the Mitchell area, and that has changed in this term with the park upgrade for one, and that needs this lighting loop and some additional scooter loops. As council has already approved, there's going to be a major pump track upgrade for Roma and looking at things for Wallumbilla. This is actually making it more usable because we have beautiful nights in the summertime and it goes away from the heat, but you do need lighting. And it was brought up to me at the opening up there, and to me, I believe some of the other projects that are actually mentioned in here will be upgraded before we could possibly get this funding. So I would not be I would actually be taking control of some of the other projects and doing them ourselves. And I do believe that we will not get the amount of money and the best benefit because we can do some of those other projects through savings and other cost benefits of working together. So to me, that's why I'm going to support lighting of the walking path loop and installation of the additional scooter jumps for Mitchell Memorial Park as a livability project for Mitchell in the Maranoa. Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, are you intending to add the extra two about providing preliminary commitments to funding as well as authorising the chief executive?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I should do that.
On page 17.
Page 17. Thank you. Yeah, so point 2 and 3, do you believe?
The 2 and 3, please.
Yeah. 2, provide preliminary commitment to funding the contributions required to in 23-24 year. And 3, authorise the chief executive officer or delegate to sign funding agreement and any other necessary documents if successful. So is the second happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against or for the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I'm just going to speak. Personally, I would have liked another couple of different projects, but as you say, there's only so much money that they're going to give away, and this might have the best opportunity. So I will support it because it is also a good idea to try and finish off Mitchell Memorial Park. So just hoping that we can get to the other projects sometime.
Does someone else wish to speak? Councillor Burkett.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm fully supportive of this and I was supportive of nearly all the projects, but I do think this is the right fit. But the main reason for me is not only because it's in Mitchell, but it's the completed job, so it's not half finished. Once this is done and the turf's, it's going to look $1 million, and I think the community, they haven't stopped using the park as it is, and then the shade structure is going up at the moment, so I think it's going to look a real picture when it's finished, and the community's loving it. So once again, I'd like to thank the Deputy Director and his staff for getting this to a finished product, hopefully, funding-wise anyway.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I agree with you. There's a lot of worthy projects in this list. I also think this is a worthy project and I'd like to see it finished. I just don't feel I can support it because, as you said, we actually have spent a lot of money in Mitchell this term, which is fantastic for that town. But there's other towns in our region that we actually haven't invested that money in. And I think this time it should have been that town's turn. And so therefore, there's that one project that I think should be their turn, and another project I think we're going to have to spend the money anyway, and so we should be using this money to tick that project off. And I've heard lots of times that yes, we should go with projects because we will fund it ourselves in another means, but yet here we are many years down the track and we still haven't funded it. So I'm very concerned about that statement. And on that basis, while I think it's a great project, I just think this time we should have been going with 2 other projects that are on the list.
Okay, does someone else wish to speak for or against the motion?
Just a question of the mover. Would you consider adding a second project like we have done on nearly every funding round that I can recall where we've put 2 projects up for consideration?
Well, I probably wouldn't because I'm concerned that I think we're at our threshold of the amount of money that we can be successful and actually get. So
But we don't know that, Mayor.
No, we don't, but I've saw what we've got in the past and I think this is pushing the threshold. That's my opinion.
Well, I'll move an amendment.
Please go ahead.
I'll move an amendment that project 1 is priority 1, and then we include a second project, which is priority 2, which is project 7, which is the chain mesh fencing to northern side of Gallis Fox Park in Roma.
So are you saying with project 1, we're saying that's the main priority and the second is project 2 when we do go for the funding?
That's what I moved as an amendment. Yes.
Okay, so if they could only do one, they would do project 1, hypothetically.
Well, that's it. I mean, the government will do what the government wants to do. I'm just simply putting forward that would be the position I've formed. Whether they adhere to that, that's up to the government. But you'd like to think that they'd listen to the applicant.
Is the seconder happy with that?
Well, the only concern I got, if they look at that and they say that's our priority and then they don't give either. I don't know.
I don't think they'd do that, though.
No, they would. Well,
If they're not going to give either, it won't matter how many you put, it won't matter.
No, but I mean, I don't know.
So I've moved that amendment.
So we've got to think whether the mover accepts the
Second
amendment.
it, Mr Mayor. You didn't have a seconder, did you?
No, well, I haven't decided whether.
Okay.
I haven't decided whether
Well,
I'm
you're
going to accept
or
it.
not? Okay, sorry.
When you're deciding, can I make a comment, Mr Mayor?
Yeah.
This is actually the first of a number of different rounds. Are we better, and I'm just asking a rhetorical question, are we better off putting in for one and then seeing how this goes in the application for funding? And then we've got some fallback ones.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, Councillor Guthrie, that's speaking against my amendment. Mayor, you're either accepting it or you're seeking a seconder for it.
Okay.
And does the seconder need to be?
You've got to make the first decision, then you've got to ask the second.
Gold,
That's correct.
Councillor Burkett.
If you're going to accept it, you say it. If not, you don't. You ask for the seconder. If you don't approve, then it just goes straight to the.
Yeah, if you say no, it's out.
Yeah.
Then it's up to
Not out, but-
someone else.
No, not out, but it's.
Someone else seconding the amendment, so you can.
I'll say I won't accept it. So we'll go with Councillor O'Neill and McMullen for the amendment. Okay. Does the mover wish to speak to or the amendment?
Yes, I do. As I highlighted in moving the amendment, we have historically, when it comes to funding round, put 2 projects up. We'd like to know what the priorities are for the government, but we'd only be guessing. We'd like to know that we have an idea as to what the maximum amount is that they could possibly award to us, but we'd be guessing. I think prudent upon us to put 2 projects forward. I have suggested that the project that was put forward initially be a priority number 1, and then that priority 2 project also be considered, which is the chain mesh fencing to the northern side of Gullis Fox Park. It's a project that has been raised with us. There is a necessity for it to occur for safety, particularly for the younger players out there. And of course, we've had some major events in the last 18 months, and that will occur again. I think if there's an opportunity for the government to invest in that project, then we should throw it into the mix for it to be considered. Highlighting again that priority number 1 from a council perspective, if this resolution is supported, will be the project in Mitchell, lighting of the walking path, and priority 2 would be the chain mesh fence.
Okay. Does someone wish to speak against the amendment or for the amendment?
Mr Mayor, one of the reasons, or the main reason I seconded it, I originally was going to go the other way and go for Wallumbilla tennis courts, which I would love to, but project 1 is our priority, as Councillor O'Neill said. That's $170,000 we're applying for. However, when they get to the end of the divvying it out, we might be on the tail end of it, and we might be lucky if they can't handle 170, they might be able to squeeze 80 in, if you know what I mean. So that's just was my. They might only, if they haven't got 170 left in the biggie barrel, they might have a few. Like we do that with our local grants sometimes.
Can I just ask a question? If they decide to give 80, you wouldn't put 80 into that 170. You just wash it out.
Well, you couldn't.
Who knows what the government will do?
Yes.
It's not much of a priority if you.
But anyway, let's get Councillor McMullen speak.
That's what that was why I seconded the motion, because 170 or an $80,000 project.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? I'll speak against the motion. I do believe we can do the chain wire fence a different way. I think we've heard today that we probably can do it a different way. I think that it's very important to try and get landmark projects, and the big point is finishing Mitchell, but giving the livability that you can exercise without the heat of the day will be a major advantage. And that's really, as it was said by one of the officers, it's a very easy argument to put about why we need lighting when we live in much hotter conditions. So I think we should not cloud it when we can do projects in other ways. Okay, does someone wish to speak for the amendment? Or against?
Mr Mayor, I'll speak against. As much as, like I said earlier, all projects would be fantastic to do, and I'm just worried that that they do come down and they've only got half the money or whatever, it's not much of a priority if we don't put that money into the number one priority if it's only becomes 80,000 or whatever like that. And I also believe that we can do the chain wire fence, and we've got a bit of time up our sleeve with that one, because it's not going to be the next main events next weekend. After that, we've got a long bit of time up our sleeve. So, yeah, I'm sticking with the original motion.
Okay. Yeah, now, who would like to speak? For? Please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, I'm going to support this motion because I actually think that we shouldn't be doing an all or nothing approach. I originally thought 2 projects. One of them projects have now been added in. I think that the all or nothing approach doesn't give an option to the government. I think that we should put I'm happy to put the big project up as long as we've got a backup project that if they can't afford to give us the money for the bigger project, well, at least we'll get some sort of money in this grant, or potentially we'll get some sort of money in this grant round. So I actually think having the 2 projects going forward is actually advantageous for the council rather than an all or nothing approach. And we've actually seen the success of putting up 2 projects before in this council. And so I actually think that this is a smart way of putting the projects forward and actually having dispersing it across a couple of different communities. So that's why I'll support this amendment.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I was happy to identify Project 1 as a priority and to put it for consideration for this funding. I think that we should be trying to access external funding for a project like this. And we did hear from the officer that there's another option possible option with regard to the fencing that we are aware of and is part of our maybe consideration. I think we're going to confuse it by having more than one. I'd prefer just to put the one in and be very aware that there's other rounds that have been listed here that we could also consider down the track.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thank you. Our role as councillors is to be strategic, and I think the strategy of just putting up one project runs a risk. Now, that risk may turn out to be a success, and we get the entire amount. But these are competitive rounds, and as has already been highlighted, there were priorities for the government. And at the end of the day, I picked one project to put up that I believe is a priority. But there are other projects here that should be considered also as a second project if this doesn't get up. I just think it will be we will be poorer for it by not putting up at least 2 options for consideration. I made it very clear that the project 1 would be priority 1, and we would make that known as the applicants to the government, and that the second priority would be project 7. We, as Councillor Hancock has highlighted, we've been successful in putting 2 projects up in the past. It has been common practice to do that to ensure that we're, opening up options for the government. And I urge councillors to support the amendment.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment?
Yes.
Yeah.
All those against the amendment?
Against?
Okay, that's 4-4, and I'll decide in the negative, so it's lost 4-5. If I can call for a division. Okay, so we've got the original motion. Now, I'll speak to the motion if I haven't. I think I did.
Yes, you did.
Yep. Okay, someone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion?
I think it's all been said.
Righto, so then we'll go...
What have we just got the?
Just the one project.
That's right, up the
Yeah.
top there.
So we'll go to the vote then. All those in favour of the motion?
What's that? Sorry?
All those in favour of the original motion for project 1?
Yes.
Yes.
All those against?
Yes.
7-1 if I can call for a division. C3, strategic quarry pit investigation. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move the council receive a note report and assign an allocation of $15,000 to council's quarry pit operations to continue to investigate additional strategic gravel pits located within the Maranoa region.
Okay, well, we got two.
No.
Well, I think Councillor
Well,
Guthrie was actually first.
Okay, all good. All good.
And any opposition to this motion? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Not really. I think just great that the officer's thinking ahead, really. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Edwards?
He might have spoken.
Councillor Edwards, are you in favour? You might have come at the same time.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Okay, 8-0. Okay, moving on to C4.
Page 24.
Page 24, Infrastructure Agreement, reference 2022/20658. Councillor McMullen.
Mayor, I'll move that council prepare and present a draft infrastructure agreement and offer to the applicant relating to the acquisition of proposed Lot 4 and Lot 5 and the assessment of development application 2022-20658, subject to the terms detailed in the officer's report and the additional addendum.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Does anyone wish to speak? Righto, we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0. Okay, I would like to...
LC1.
LC1, great. LC1, yes, sole supplier arrangement. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett?
I'd like to move that Council 1, in accordance with Section 235A of the Local Government Regulation 2012, approve the sole supplier arrangement for the Pillaway Pit Landowner Agreement between Naturi Aggregation Proprietary Limited and Maranoa Regional Council. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the landowner agreement on behalf of the council.
Okay, we have a second, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 All good.
8-0.
Now,
Councillors, I'd like to move a notice without motion for an item in regards to major increases in insurance premiums in the Maranoa. Do we have a seconder for putting that on the agenda?
Yes.
Oh, well, Councillor Taylor was first. Any opposition? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 8-0.
Okay.
Okay, so
capturing that.
I've asked for some assistance. I'd like to move, and I'll just ask the CEO to.
So through the chair, just capturing some of the comments, was to that council, write to the Insurance Council of Australia, raising concerns in relation to the rising cost of insurance in the Maranoa, and B, remind them of the works, of the council works completed since 2012.
CEO.
Sorry.
We just got to slow down a little bit, yeah.
Just zip up here. Right to the insurance council, to the rising costs of insurance, premiums in the Maranoa. And the council, sorry, anyway, remind them. I'll fix this. Yep, and remind them of the council works completed since 2012, as well as our plans for future improvements. Yeah, okay. That's probably it. I'm not quite sure whether that
Yeah,
captures
that's
everything.
good. And just in B, remind them of the council works completed since 2012 with the current costs
Oh, right.
of these works, or what's the
You're
best
talking
way?
about replacement costs,
Yeah,
noting
replacement.
Noting the replacement.
the current replacement costs of this infrastructure.
Yeah, correct.
Current cost of these works. Oh, okay.
And then C, write to federal and state ministers to make them aware of failures in the insurance market with astronomical increases in premiums, and request, changes to ensure a functioning insurance sector.
So, and could it be request federal support to ensure a functioning insurance sector?
Yeah, federal and state, so we'll write them both.
Yep, sure, right.
Yeah, so we'll basically making them aware of the failures
And
with a $9,000 bill to insure your house for a year.
Yep. So and certainly.
Okay, I'd like to move that A, council write to Insurance Council of Australia raising concerns about the rising cost of insurance premiums in the Maranoa. B, remind them of the council works completed since 2012, noting the current replacement cost of this infrastructure, as well as our plans for future improvements or future flood mitigation.
Yeah, flood mitigations. Yep. Okay.
Flood mitigation
work or something like that.
Yeah, strategies. C, write to federal and state ministers, making them aware of failures in the insurance market with astronomical increases in premiums, and request federal and state support to ensure a functioning insurance sector. Functioning and affordable insurance sector.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have to put in there about the replacement costs, so that covered in that?
Yeah, that is. You mean, yeah.
you know, $700,000.
Yeah, that's right. And
Contemporary building costs, aren't they?
and put D, what would we say? Replacement building costs.
But that's, sorry, Mayor, that's captured in the astronomical increases.
Well, that's true too. That's how they got the astronomical increases.
And Mayor, I just wonder, I'm happy to second this, but I just wonder what the federal and state ministers are aware of this. They are talking about it. I just wonder if we write to federal and state ministers to raise our serious concerns in the failures of the insurance market. Like, they're aware of it. They need to know that we are also increasingly concerned for our residents about what's going on.
Well, I thought we were going to do that with the motion, was to basically tell them about the failures. Federal and state ministers opposing the insurance market with astronomical increases. Right to the federal and state ministers to raise
it in the failures of the insurance markets with their astronomical increases to premiums. And further, we request the federal and state government to support a functioning and affordable insurance sector.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, we've got a mover in a second. Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. We've been contacted by multiple residents about these issues. We know that the insurance companies are under probably had their worst amount of disasters, going from fires to floods to just basically unbelievable events in Australia. I believe that there just needs to be some form of underwriting of actual disasters rather than standard events. And now it will come to the point that people will not be able to afford to insure their houses, and that is a much bigger problem for governments of all levels. And I think we need to do everything for our ratepayers to be able to help them make sure that they can continue to insure their house. Would anybody else wish to speak?
Yes, I will.
Councillor O'Neill.
I think we're obligated to speak up on behalf of our community. As you've highlighted, there have been residents raising concerns, and I suspect as premiums, as policies are renewed over the coming months, we will hear more examples of where there have been, hikes in the premiums. I know that we've been tasked to do our bit to help mitigate the flooding risks, and we've been working on that. We need to do more, and we need the support of the federal and state governments to be able to do that for our community. But I think if we are, we need to do our bit and be a voice for our community. And raise these concerns and hopefully enact some change, because the last thing that we will want to see is people making a difficult choice, and that's not to insure their properties and to be priced out of being able to do that. I would really hate to see people get into that situation. So we need to advocate hard, and that's what this resolution does. To voice the concerns of our community to the respective governments and to the insurance companies and to the Insurance Council of Australia as well. So I'm very happy to support this.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
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 Okay, 8-0. Any further business, councillors?
Did we actually do LC2?
Yeah.
We did.
Yep.
Okay, on that note, I'll close the meeting at 5:19 p.m. and thank you for your attendance.